All right, trying it again. Trying to see if I can be heard this time around. So I see the pro-black perspective says 2. All right, so my sound came up now. I don't know what it is with this platform. I'm going to have to go searching for a new one because there's a lot of bugs. A lot of you can't even join the panel like I'd like you to. Speaking of that, I haven't gotten full resolution on that because they need to know what phone types, what operating system types, and it's just a whole bunch. So seems like the best bet is if you have a really up-to-date phone, use that, or you're gonna have to use your laptop or PC to join the discussion. With that said, anyway, let me tell you guys what we have in store for tonight. Tonight, it's hard sometimes to read these off because they don't make sense by themselves, right? Tonight we're going to show you something beautiful that shows our connectedness and universality. We're going to talk about Yvette Clarke, the 9th District of New York congressperson who has sent a letter to Biden urging the exoneration of Papa Garvey. We're going to talk about the power of language and how others plan for us, 2025 goals. We're going to try to answer this true or false question. Many of America's problems are self-inflicted, true or false. And we have another topic here. I can't remember what it's about based on the titling alone, but we got 5 topics for you guys tonight. Hopefully you guys are ready to join in the discussion. What I'll do now is start the show officially, and on the other side, I will drop Shoot the Breeze topic number 1, as well as introduce any and all panelists tonight, so please stay tuned. In the meantime, hit the like button, share the show on your social media, let other people know what you're doing this Saturday night. Stay tuned.
Hello there, dear listener. We hope you're enjoying this lovely discussion. If you're not already aware, this show is part of a podcast network called KWAZ Radio, a Pan-African nationalist and Garveyite network committed to showcasing the rich and varied thoughts of African people. We have an exciting lineup of shows that we think you'll enjoy, including
the Bitter Medicine Podcast.
I think black people require too much buy-in. Like, we constantly have to sell black people on things that are beneficial to black people.
The Pro-Black Perspective Podcast.
I'm fearful that our people are not really studying how to get ahead, and we're kind of, continually staying behind.
The Harsh Reality Podcast.
To me, it don't matter. I think people are so dumbed down, it wouldn't matter what you reveal to them. They still are in the matrix. They're in the simulation. They're going to keep doing what they did. They lemmings. So to me, it don't matter, man.
The Learning Curve Podcast.
Sexual access has never given you economic empowerment. The only person who has ever been economically empowered by a sexual relationship is the wasp and his woman.
The Cathedral Cheek Show.
When we start rising up to fight for our own, I guarantee you they'll stop doing what they're doing. I guarantee you they would have let their brother go. They was waiting to see what black folks was going to do.
Brother Bakari Podcast.
Black people love to claim folks that hate them, right? They're a slave master, and they are ashamed of who they really are.
The Forecast Radio.
Like, if you pray to the same deity as like your enemy, and that God blesses your enemy more than you may want to reconsider who you praying to,
And Tanzan, African Mind.
Africans generally are welcoming of everyone. Sometimes, to my consternation, I think that they should be less, welcoming.
If if you love our podcast network, we would be grateful if you could rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on social media, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and check out our website at www.kwazradio.com for more information. Thank you for tuning in. And now, back to the program.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So sound seems to be cleared up. Hopefully you guys can join the panel tonight by clicking the link that's pinned to the top of the chat. Make sure it's best to use a computer if you can, it seems, rather than your phones. Phones seem touch and go. Want to shout out an ad also. Make sure you watch Kofi the Black Critic. Kofi the Black Critic was on with Forecast and Consider Cheek, and it got, I guess, a little chippy, but that's the thing about groups, is that we all don't have to agree all the time to be a part of a group. I still think the work that Forecast does, Consider Cheek does, Kofi does, is all good stuff. And we're all part of the KWAZ radio family. So, tune into all of those shows. Give them your support when you can. Shout out to the matron. Make sure to give her your support when you can. And of course, shout out to Sister Consider Cheek, and give her a hand wherever and whenever you can as well. Before I get into Shoot the Breeze topic number one tonight, I got a few panelists who have joined me so far. Let me introduce Oni from the Pro Black Perspective. How are you this week?
Peace. How you doing, man?
Good.
Yeah, it's I'm cool. I heard you guys last week, and I'm like, oh man, let me jump on there. I'm just joking.
I appreciate that. Thanks for coming through. Let's welcome in Buana this week. Buana, how are you?
I'm good. Cool. It's good. I'm okay. I hope you all brothers are good. So it is what it is. I got a little pissed off right now because the water company doing that water company thing. This is what happens when you're in the so-called third world. But needless to say, I good, Coco. And no complaints, bro.
All right. Well, I'm sorry to hear with that, but I get that frustration. I do remember it well. With that said,
I was gonna say happy end of the year to everybody.
Yeah, happy end of the year to you as well. I'll be on next week too, for the first show of the new year. But happy end of the year to all of you who are listening. In the chat, we got Anthony McPhail saying to the KWAZ radio family, happy Kwanzaa. Today is Ujima. I appreciate that. He goes on to shout out everyone on the network and everyone who's around the network. Got Marcus Garvey is the way saying good night. Thanks to Marcus Garvey is the way, who came through last week and joined us. That was great. Daily Affirmation by Pauline is out there saying good evening. Good evening to you, my dear. Thanks for coming through. We got one more panelist who's just joined us. We got Black Steel. Black Steel, how are you this week? Black Steel, you're muted if you're talking.
Hey guys, good evening. How y'all doing?
Great. Thanks for coming through.
Good, bro. Good.
Yeah, man. Cool.
All right. Without further ado, then, let's get right into it. Shoot the Breeze topic number one says, should we study this, or should their bozo parents put that bank elsewhere? This is why I couldn't remember what the post was. This comes with a link that takes us to Twitter. Let me make sure I share everything right with you guys. At scene. Okay. Boom. So this takes us to Twitter. This is a tweet from Jen 80 that says black girls in predominantly white schools. So this is a video, a minute and a half long. We'll watch it maybe twice. We'll see. And then we'll discuss it.
Someone needs to do an academic study on the outcomes and the experiences of young black girls who go to predominantly white prep schools. I firmly believe if you are sending your young black daughter to a really nice elite prep school, be prepared not only to pay that tuition now, but to also pay for very expensive therapy in a decade from now. I went to one of those like $50,000, $60,000 a year prep schools from 6th grade up until 12th grade. I played lacrosse, field hockey, crew on the Charles River. It was also a New England prep school. I think there's also a regional nuance here. It was psychological warfare. Spending your most formative years not being the standard of beauty, being ostracized, oftentimes being the only one in your class, having to learn about slavery in a very unsafe environment. It is, I don't think parents understand the psychological cost and warfare on young Black girls to go to these elite prep schools. Forget about having a boyfriend. Forget about going to prom. Forget about learning about race and consciousness in a healthy and safe way. Forget about if you're smart, if you're talented, if you're pretty, even if your parents have money. It is torture. You cannot fully know yourself and also be self-aware and develop a healthy sense of self in a space like that. I refuse. You can argue with me if you want. You can't do it. And I'm saying this for young Black girls specifically because I think young Black boys, though the trauma might also still exist, I think they have very different experiences than young Black girls who go to prep school.
All right, I don't think I need to play that again. To me, that's so
It cut
kind
off
of.
a little bit. Could you run it back one more time, please? I know it's torture, but please.
It cut off? Okay.
It was a little bit of static in there. If you could run it back again, I'd appreciate it.
All right, cool.
Someone needs to do an academic study on the outcomes and the experiences of young Black girls who go to predominantly white prep schools. I firmly believe if you are sending your young Black daughter to a really nice elite prep school, be prepared not only to pay that tuition now, but to also pay for very expensive therapy in a decade from now. I went to one of those like $50,000, $60,000 a year prep schools from 6th grade up until 12th grade. I played lacrosse, field hockey, crew on the Charles River. It was also a New England prep school. I think there's also a regional nuance here. It was psychological warfare. Spending your most formative years not being the standard of beauty, being ostracized, oftentimes being the only one in your class, having to learn about slavery in a very unsafe environment. It is, I don't think parents understand the psychological cost and warfare on young Black girls to go to these elite prep schools. Forget about having a boyfriend. Forget about going to prom. Forget about learning about race and consciousness in a healthy and safe way. Forget about if you're smart, if you're talented, if you're pretty, even if your parents have money. It is torture. You cannot fully know yourself and also be self-aware and develop a healthy sense of self in a space like that. I refuse. You can argue with me if you want. You can't do it. And I'm saying this for young Black girls specifically because I think young Black boys, though the trauma might also still exist, I think they have very different experiences than young Black girls who go to prep school.
Yeah, hopefully that was clear this time. I think my answer, in fact, I don't have to think. I know my answer lies on the latter side of this prompt. Like the bozo parents who sent her there. But that's the thing, you see, bozo begets bozo too. So her parents probably got that mentality that setting their child close to whiteness was probably the best thing for them. And then when the reality hits that, and this is the harsh thing too, when the reality hits that you find yourself as a Black person back around Black folks. So one thing I'll tell you about America that shouldn't be shocking, but it is a little bit surprising, a little bit. Malcolm X talked about it, is America is very segregated. This is why Black folks in America can't believe that their population is only, 14% of the entire population, because Black folks tend to be just around Black folks. You gotta go out your way to kind of be around white folks, outside of work and stuff like that. And the reality is, when you get this education and this upbringing that someone like her got, you have a rude awakening when you come back around Black folks, because it's around Black folks where you should have expected this too. It's around Black folks where you're gonna get consciousness. It's around Black folks where you're gonna get knowledge of self. White folks ain't gonna give it to you. You know what I mean? So that's the setup a lot of Black folks do to their kids. They send them around these white folks and expect them to be wholesome black folks later on. It's just insanity. I see you guys' comments in the chat. I'll read them off in a few. But let me start it off with Buana. Buana, what say you to this?
Well, after watching this, I'm reminded of there was a movie in the early 2000s called Rabbit Proof Fence. I think it was Rabbit Proof Fence. And that movie, there was these native Australian people and these religious white Australians. They basically was kidnapping the children and taking them to their primary schools or schools itself for a conditioning process. You know, they went through serious ways of conditioning. And when I hear this lady talk about the fact that she went to a prep school, what are you preparing the child for? That's what prep is. Prep means preparation. So what are you preparing the child for? Are you preparing the child to live in a world similar to them, or you are preparing the child to live in a world similar to the people in who the majority of people, the dominant so-called dominant society? And unfortunately, it's the former. Unfortunately, and as she says, she's her own witness. She says after experiencing what I experienced in prep school, it may take years and years and years of therapy to disabuse myself with the horrors she probably would have faced in these institutions. So I would want this. For me, this is a warning. This is a warning to people who wanna, in the belief that they're giving their children a better quote unquote education. Because some people black people sincerely believe if my child was to go to these institutions, they would get a better education. Yeah, but they're not only being educated in math and sciences, they're also being educated about themselves. You know, they're also being educated about how they shouldn't even be around. You know what I mean, you just an ape we trying to instruct. This is the other kind of informal education that's not stated in in these preparatory schools curriculum, and this is an unfortunate thing. You know, so I don't know. In this particular instance, the only thing I could say is find a group of parents within your community, speak to the teachers who you respect, and try to find out where is a good place that you could properly instruct your child without them coming out of the school with a psychological issue. You know, go talk to Black Steel. You know, Zenzi in our circle. Talk to teachers or whose opinions you respect, and try to find a way where you could properly instruct your children without them coming with these out with these kinds of results. But that's what I would say to this particular prompt. You know.
I appreciate that, Black Buana. In the chat, Triggabi262 Plus says this probably already got studied, but anyone with common sense should know the outcome. LOL. KW7 says you don't want to be anywhere Urugu during your formative years. That's the absolute truth. Trigger Hobby says, yeah, I read some of the comments on the tweet who said they still would rather send their children to a place where white people reside. I'm going to try scroll through some of the comments in a few too as well. KW Don says, no boyfriend. I thought white men were checking for black women. Trigger Hobby says, yep, her parents were socialized. Daily Affirmations by Pauline says, and when their children date outside their race, they wonder why. All right. Excellent comments. I'll come back to the remainder in a few. Anthony, I see. Well, Anthony was backstage and he left. I don't know what phone Anthony's using, but from what I gathered from the representative who I reached out to at the company, certain phones, make models make a difference. And I know Anthony has a Android. I don't know, which one it is. So we got to figure that one out, Anthony. With that said, let me go to Black Steel. Black Steel, what are your thoughts on this?
So this is a subject that a couple things about this conversation, right? So, like you said, people don't realize that how racist America really is and how few black people are, right? And the unfortunate thing is that many schools in majority black neighborhoods tend to be somewhat impoverished, right? They don't have the same access to the internet. They don't have the best teachers. They don't have the best facilities. So many black parents, in order to, and this young lady here, she looks to be mixed race. I think she probably, one of her parents is probably white, right? So they're in a situation where they can send, if they don't want to send their child to an all black school or to a majority black school, because unfortunately the way education is based in the United States, it goes off your tax base. So those schools that are in white neighborhoods tend to be better schools because they have a stronger tax base, that people tend to have more income. They can put more money towards the education. Whereas in majority black neighborhoods, people tend to rent more, then there's less income coming into the schools, which leads to have poor schools and poor outcomes. So many black people mistakenly believe that if I send my child to a school that has more white people, they're going to get a better education. They're going to have computers in the school, they're going to have better teachers, and the classroom size aren't going to be quite as big, and they'll be able to go on field trips and so on and so forth. So many of them come to the conclusion that going to a school such as this prep school would be better off for them in the long run because they'll receive a better education. The problem with that is that white people are still white people, right? It doesn't matter where um, whether they're upper society, upper class white people, a cracker is a cracker is a cracker. So, with that being said, these black children go to this school and they're subject to all type of microaggressions. They're subject to all type of, you know, toxic, hateful, negative things about themselves. And she mentioned, you know, being the standard of beauty, um, being having a boyfriend. I'm pretty sure there's plenty of white boys that probably would have smashed just to knock off of, you know, just to check off they smashed a black girl off their list, right? But the type of love and acceptance she was looking for, especially in her formative years, you're not going to get that in an environment, like especially a New England prep school where you're paying $60,000 a year to go to school. She's not going to get that around. Those are the creme de la creme of these crackers, right? So even though I'm pretty sure her parents may have had the best intentions, they're woefully inadequate to the realities that we live in as African people in the United States, and the literal centuries of racism and discrimination. I think a lot of our people outside of the conscious sphere are in denial about the conditions for black people in this country. And they feel like you work hard, you make enough money, you can avoid all of that. You can live in a nice neighborhood with the white people, they won't bother you because you're not like those other niggas. But in white people's mind, you are those niggas. Every nigga is those niggas, right? So you live in a nice, you know, $500,000 house in a gated community, and then they call the police on you for walking your dog in the neighborhood, or they won't let you get in your gate because they don't want you in the neighborhood. Or you send your kids to this prep school, and you know they're making TikToks about how you pick cotton, or they're doing blackface, and there's all type of other hateful things they're doing because you can't legislate morality. You cannot legislate racism out of white people. This is something that is in their culture, that is something that is taught to their children, right? And I think the only thing black people can do is teach our children the love of being black, right? Because the reality is that most black people have low racial esteem. We really do believe the worst about ourselves, and we believe that our conditions are a result of our failures as a people, and we ignore the fact that European has decimated and devastated everywhere he's gone, without exception. Black people are not unique. White people have gone all over the globe. They've committed genocide on every landmass on earth. Right? There's no reforming or moralizing with these people. That's off the board. So I think the salute her parents, were they bozos? I'm pretty sure they probably were in denial, right? And that's the reality that a lot of black people are in denial. They don't like to deal with the realities that we face and the systems we go up against because it's painful. That means there's a lot of work to be done left, right? You can't send your black daughter to this school. And I do take offense that she wanted to exclude black boys from this because number one, black boys are going to be met with a level of hostility that black girls just aren't going to be met with simply because of the fact they are female. Whereas the boys, especially start getting muscle and getting height, black boys are seen as an intrinsic threat, not just from the other kids in the school, but by the faculty as well. So I would argue that black boys are under no illusions. These young black girls might be in these prep schools, but let's not make any mistake. Let's not put no gender wars on this stuff. Black children, be they male or female, will suffer discrimination in a majority white environment. She was probably the only black person in her grade level. And I can attest to that because I went to a private Christian school in the 6th grade, and there were only 3 black children in the entire 6th grade. Okay, myself, another black boy, and a black girl. And these, and my mom, she was able to afford the school for me and my younger brother. And it was against a Christian school, but the public school that we went to didn't have the best things that was in my neighborhood. So going to that school, the microaggressions that, and we didn't call it back then, we just bullied, right? It was constant. Um, but I fought back. I was constantly throwing hands. My mom I grew up in a black neighborhood. All my friends, like when I got that school bus, everybody everybody in my neighborhood was black. Had a couple Puerto Ricans here and there, but mostly it was black people that we associated with. My mom always made sure to teach us our history. We never were taught to feel inferior about ourselves. I grew up around trailer park trash, right? I never ever felt inferior to anybody. So that was nothing. That wasn't my problem. So, but I remember going to that school, and this white boy, he had to be like 8 feet tall. I'm a little 6th grader. He goes up to me, want to fight. What's up, nigga? Here I am, nigga. What you want to do? So the administration of the school was very understanding. The boy was expelled, not suspended, expelled. They kicked him out of school completely because of his aggression towards myself and the other 3 black kids in the school. Right? We were 6, but we were small. This dude was a giant. He probably was in high school. So after that, when we moved, we didn't go to that school anymore. And and I don't know if that was a part of it. Could have been the cost, but I went to a school that was mostly black. It represented the community that I lived in. There was a lot more black people, a lot more Hispanic people, and there was a sprinkling of whites. And believe it or not, I got a better education in that school because I wasn't having to deal with the constant threats, the constant insults to my intelligence. The textbooks were insanely. I still remember to this day some of the stuff in the textbooks they said about Africa. It was insane. I give you an example, just off the top of my head, right? They were talking about talking about Africa and whatnot. Whenever they showed a map of Africa, they always listed the country that colonized Africa. South Africa colonized by, Tanzania colonized by, but they didn't do that with Asia. They didn't do that with South America, but they made sure to indicate that black people were colonized and list the nation they were colonized by. I just thought that was insanely racist. Even as a 6th grader, I thought it was crazy. But long story short, I can understand why these parents might want to send their kid to a school like this, especially if they're from a in the hood school where they have to worry about drug dealing and violence or whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's not worth it. You would be better to invest and pour into your own schools or even homeschool them than subject them to this. All right, so I'm done there. Thank you.
That was good stuff there, Black Steel. I'm showing some of the comments on screen under the video, and you can see there's a little bit of a mixed bag, but there's definitely some folks who are championing this notion of sending your children around white folks for an education. Um, Someone says she's absolutely right. I lived it. Someone says as a black girl who went to a small town, predominantly white school and community, I can totally agree with this one. I was not protected, and they didn't even touch on subjects about slavery or civil rights, etc. My parents just didn't have to pay a lot of money to go there. You know, when Black Seal was speaking as well, I was reminded, I think earlier this month actually, we spoke about the young black girl who attempted to commit suicide because of the racial hostility she encountered. And I'm not even sure I'm not sure she was going to a prep school. I feel like she was going to a regular, uh, you know, what we would call a government school. Um, and she got that kind of treatment. Imagine what you get when you go to like a prep school, especially I think the lady said it was like in New England or something like that. Like, yeah, what do you expect is going to happen? Before I get to Oni, let me read a few comments. Trigger says, one can never have a good education if they are being racially terrorized. LOL. All aspects of your development are important, and your racial self-esteem has to be affirmed. He goes on to say all the small, intricate things like your cultural mannerisms, who you find to be smart, who you find to be attractive and beautiful, etc., are important in your development years. Anthony said he tried again. Yeah, I saw it, Anthony. I'm gonna have to give you a call or something during the week to see if we could figure out something. Amos Wilson, this kid up on 7, he said Amos Wilson taught you cannot send black children to be educated alongside white children. The problems that confront black people are diametrically opposed to the problems that confront white folks. Um, Trigger Happy says, good catch, Black Steel. Boys probably have the same problem too. And lastly, Trigger Happy says, also keep in mind as you are reading the people who say they made it out well, to me, all that just means is they're successfully become whitewashed. And that's what success in these schools mean. Yeah, when you look at some of the comments in the chat on Twitter under the post, um, it's that's basically what they're saying. Someone went to list off all their children who went to one of these prep schools and how old they are and how much degrees. I mean, come on, man, come on. A lot of our folks, and I'm curious to know you guys' thoughts on this too. Is it just black, like these black folks, like these who we see under the post here? Are they just ignoring the obvious, or is that the rugged individualism taking over as well? You guys could respond to that later on after Oni does his part. Oni, should we study this, or should their bozo parents put that bank elsewhere? What say you?
We shouldn't study this, man. Like when you already know the answer. That's the thing about the West too. When you already know the answer, why are you studying it? You know. That said, my thing is I don't like when people say we should study, someone should study. I think if you wanna like if you got this, especially if you got this big ass education, according to you, right? Why don't you study? You know, why don't you study? Although for me it's like that question isn't that important. You know. And then here's my other thing. You know, she's talking and she's like, well, after you send me to this expensive ass school, you need to now pay for my therapy. You know, like clearly what you should be doing is telling people don't go, not continuing that entitlement into your adulthood because you clearly didn't grow into a functional adult. If you're telling, if your parents spent $60,000 a year on your education, and after that, all you can say is, "Well, you got to put some more into my, stability." Like clearly you've not clearly what you should be saying is this was a bad idea. Now I'll tell y'all because I'm out in the on the continent, motherland, right? And I can say this, man. My son, I would say, like it seems like he would never need therapy. I mean, of course, you can't tell so early, but boy has a good childhood. Not just that, he's talking about, oh yeah, my girlfriend, my girlfriend. I'm like, what? This boy, now, I don't know, like 9, right? The boy is talking about he got a girlfriend, you know, and just has a good, happy life. I'm not saying there's no ups or downs. There's no negatives. I'm not saying that there are no negatives, right? But what I was able to do is give him, um, lovely black family, right? Show affection to, a woman in front of him. Not, like deep affection, you know what I'm saying, right? But also show affection for him, be there for him, guide him, and of course, give him a educational opportunity where he is where the beauty standard is black, very black. You know, where the beauty standard is black. Where like I said, you give him a household where the beauty standard is black. You give him a school system where the beauty system is black, right? And then you have this lady who comes out of a white school, and then she's doing that hand clap talk, right? Which I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with a hand clap, but clearly the trouble with her hand gestures is you could just tell she's emulating. No, sorry, imitating. Like it's not something that she really grew up with, but she's trying to be. And I'm not saying like look, somebody might say, look, it looks genuine to them. That's fine. To me, it looks like she's just playing, and as she's just playing, you could tell she's loud and annoying. You could just tell. Like she would be. I'm not saying she was ugly. I don't think she was ugly, but she would be a woman to steer clear of. You know, and that like again because she doesn't see that. You know, because she doesn't see that, it becomes why are you like why are you even like what are you? Why can't you see that your parents screwed you over? Now that said, I want to say this, man. Parents are paying $60,000 a year to condition their kids. Meanwhile, a lot of us are saying we don't have money for Africa. You know, I'll tell y'all this, man. Obviously, I haven't spent no $60,000 since I've been to Africa. Man, I'm not even sure if I spent. I mean, of course, I was buying some businesses and stuff like that. So obviously, I would have spent a little bit more than a lot of people who haven't, but who won't. But yeah, I we're talking like nothing compared to this. Meanwhile, these parents have this kind of money to put into their kids' education, where the education is not even like they don't even vet it, they don't have any control over it. Their kid is being abused in school and they can't do shit. And so last thing I would say is that the comments remind us that there's a lot of losers with blue checks. Again, nothing wrong with having a blue check. I'm just saying that there's a lot of black people out there who are just gonna get beaten and battered. And they're going to and they're just they're getting beat about it, and they're going to take that abuse out on other people, and their parents don't know like left from right. And I, like I said, people continually say, "Oh man, we ain't got no money. We ain't got no money." And the reality is that, like I said, like most people understand, most Black Americans have the most money of any Black group. Okay. Now, obviously, there are a lot of Black Americans who won't, who are in a situation where they can't afford a lot of stuff. But $6,000 a year for one child to go to school, like, come on. Like you have it, and you could have done something with that. You could have given your kids a real opportunity, but instead, especially if you know how America works, you could have given your kids a real opportunity. They could have came back, did their GED, got to college, all that shit. You chose to put them into an environment that you thought could cultivate them, and you put an extreme cost to put yourself behind. And now that you're and Karis, if you're still ahead after putting $60,000 a year in your kid's education, that's fine. You have it good, sure. But where is your kid? Where do you think your kid is going to be? You know, if like people use the word formative. If you are giving your formative years to another people, what are you going to be formed into? And these parents, they know what it is. They're paying a heavy cost for it, and yet they go along with it. And that's the thing that we have to understand about a lot of black people, right? A lot of black people, and see, I would say even shame on the people in America just for that, in the sense of you should know who this white boy is. You know, like in Africa, you don't really see no white boys like that. You know, in Africa, you don't really, as far as I can tell, you're not going to get that kind of education on the white boy just the same. But you should, if you're in America, you should know who this white boy is, and for you to hand over your child and $60,000. You know, it's one thing if you hand over your child and it's free. You handed over your child and $60,000 to this white boy. Yeah, something wrong with you, man. You know, something needs to be. You know, your parents need to be studied, and not just studied. You know, they need to go to the study and not come back. But that's all I'm saying.
They need to be dissected and studied. Yeah, but only makes a really good point in that, man. That is easy to overlook. Is one thing if you will go into the public school system to get indoctrinated, that's relatively free. But to put $50,000, $60,000, I think she said a year behind that shit, that's insanity. That's a very good point. And the point of like you had it like that, you could have sent your children to get a strong education, rites of passage, this, that, and the other, culturalization in Africa or something like that. That's a very strong point. I can't deny it. Trigger Happy 262 plus agrees. He says, yep, good call. Hold on. He says, yep, good call out from Oni on that, but it just tells you the conditioning of the parents because repatriation isn't on their mind. Only in the chat says the dissection study is what we need. Earlier, Brother Bakari was out there saying peace and black African power. Shout out to Brother Bakari. Make sure you guys are giving him your support as well. Is there any last thoughts from anyone on the panel about this topic?
All I'm gonna say about this topic is that it's not a surprise to me when black people take white ideology and they internalize it, right? Because it's constant. Again, I think this lady here, I think one of her parents is probably white. She might be biracial. But even if she wasn't, it doesn't surprise me that there are some black people who would say, hey, I want my child to get the best education. I'm going to send them to this school because they believe they're going to have the same outcomes. Because a lot of black people outside of the conscious sphere are very much in denial about how we are treated in this country. They may have made some material gains, and they figure if I made it, then if I send my child to this school, they're going to have the same outcomes as a Bannon Trump, right? Because that's probably what Bannon Trump went to, where these rich millionaires send their kids to school at. They're thinking they're gonna have the same outcome. It's just a lot of denial and just not being aware of the environment that we live in.
I want to build on that for one brief second because Black Steel said something extremely important. America likes to prize themselves on equal opportunity. Equal opportunity. Equal opportunity. They'll give you the same opportunity that they give a white person to come to the institution and pay $50,000. As long as you're paying $50,000, sure, come on in. But what they cannot promise you is equal outcomes. They can't do that because the system ain't designed to create equal outcomes. There's a limited amount of resources in America. There's a limited amount of jobs. I remember Dr. Amos Wilson said before, he's like, people think that white corporations have an endless supply of jobs. That's not true. It's limited amount of jobs. It's a limited amount of resources, and unfortunately, people will feed their children, or the children will look like them before they feed your children. So you will get the scraps of what is left over. I don't care. Well, they say, well, you smart. They like to prize themselves with merit. Merit will take you over the top. But the reality is, even if you is the most smartest, people are inclined to feed their families before they feed yours. That's just the reality. You could promise me great opportunity, but you cannot promise me equal outcomes. That is an important feature that we need to drill into the minds of people, especially our people, because there is no equal outcomes. Despite the fact that you went to Harvard, you could still end up as a greeter in Walmart. But needless to say, thank you, Koku. I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there.
No problem. In the chat, Anthony McPhail says, Coke, I think this is a problem across the African world because this also happens in the Caribbean and in Africa among our people, among our well-to-do people. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I can tell you for a fact. Absolutely. Caribbean people, too. Some of them got some dollars, too. And they be sending their kids to all kind of, these types of schools and stuff that this lady is talking about as well.
Koku, Queens College.
I was gonna name names, St.
Oh
Andrews.
yeah. My cousin right now, he have a little bit of money, and his concern right now is sending his daughter, whether he should send his daughter to the so-called one of these Conky school, a school filled with Conky children, because that's his concern. He's like, well, I have the money, but I don't want to risk, because you don't want to send your children there and they end up with a cocaine problem, after they graduate. So I understand that concern. That concern is a fair concern, and you just have to monitor where you decide to send your children and be more influential than their system. Be a more influential parent than the system will be to your child. That's the only thing I could say. But I'll leave it there, Coco.
I appreciate that. You know exactly what I was thinking when I was saying those words. I was thinking about those particular schools from our country, from our island. Chaku Torre, you tried to get on the panel, but it seems like, for the most part, if you get on through a laptop, PC, I think most of the panelists might be on a laptop. If not, you're using an updated software on your phone, this, that, and the other. Then you can get on and be heard, etc. So try that and see if you could come back for Shooter Breeze topic number 2. With that said, let's go to Shooter Breeze topic number 2. Shooter Breeze topic number 2 says, something beautiful that shows our connectedness and universality. This came with a link that'll take us to YouTube. This probably has music in it, but it's all right. I've been striked enough times. So we'll watch it, and then we will discuss it.
Rastafari, them ancient, they forget to play a big artist. Now watch the big youth. Watch the youth. What a moderation. What a moderation. Them never play this. Them never play this. All our unity. For the people. For the people. Yes. What a moderation. It's all over creation. Not only in a jam, no. It's only inflation. All over creation, yo. And now be a starvation. Not only in a jam, yo. I'm say work out, arms out.
Employment, imprisonment, the way we do you. Slave rocket, empty wallet, broke pocket, the way we do you. Tenant yard, rent yard, landlord, the way we do you. What about adoration? Domina jam domino. It's all over creation. Not only in a jam dum yo, and not only inflation. All over creation, yeah. And a be starvation. Not only in a jam dum yo. Homicide, suicide, genocide, the way we do you. Consideration, desperation, eradication, the way we do you. Gamblings, hustlings, scufflings, the way we do you. Cheap up, stay broke, bad luck, the way we do you. What about adoration? Domina jam domino. It's all over creation. Not only in a jam dum yo, and not only inflation. Domina jam dum yo. It's all over creation. Not only in a jam dum.
Selassie, Ja, Rastafari, back to back.
Yes, indeed. You guys, let me know if the stream is still up. Those of you in the chat, let me know if the stream is still up. But yeah, Trigger Happy in the chat asks a question: where is this at? That's kind of the point of the post itself, right? Something beautiful that shows our connectedness and universality. And I'll tell you, it's not Jamaica, right? Thanks for letting me know it's still up, Trigger Happy. Yeah, it's not Jamaica. Let me start Oni on this one. Oni, what are your thoughts on something beautiful that shows our connectedness?
Oh damn! I thought it was Jamaica. Anyway, I was like, oh man, Jamaican music is pretty good. No, but yeah, I mean, I don't know where that was from, but you know, it reminds me. I mean, if it's not Jamaica, I don't know where it is. But what it reminds me is how uh, the like most music is really not on this level in terms of positive messaging. You know, and I could give props to, let's say the I mean, again, because it's just not Jamaica, I don't want to give Jamaica its credit, but I want to say the Jamaican music industrial complex, let's say, or whatever, right? Not, that doesn't make any sense, but you know what I'm saying. Like the Jamaican music export, if you will, I give props to it for the positive messaging. Not to say that hip hop didn't used to have positive messaging. You know, I was originally told that hip hop was a like anti drug, maybe like anti heroin type stuff, like crack is whack type stuff back in the day. Um, but the guy talking about genocide, suicide, watch out for these, that kind of stuff, right? Very meaningful to get people moving and dancing to that kind of stuff, like I said, I'm here in Tanzania, and a lot of the Tanzanian music is not. It's not like it's kind of about the relationships, kind of about oh man, women are expensive, love is expensive, that kind of stuff. Not really about geopolitical issues. And I think we heard, I think it was like, I can't remember if it was Bushi Banton who was saying it last time, but like, yeah, you can definitely see that reflected here, with people dancing. Now, granted, it looks like it's mostly older people. Um, and it's not really necessarily like it might not necessarily be caught on by the youth. I don't know, but I would give uh, I would give that music genre props. You know, just for that. I think that's really significant, especially considering that usually we tend to say, oh well, certain people influence our music, and that's why our music is not that positive. But like I said, even out here in Tanzania, it's like the music's just not positive sometimes, or not as positive as this. And so, really, we have to understand that music can be used to a certain extreme. Because again, there's nothing wrong with entertainment music. Complaining about relationships and women and whatever. But there's something right about you know larger issues in the world, and being sensitive to geopolitical issues or issues, surrounding Black people that are outside of your country. And this is something that is nailed by, if not Jamaica, I guess the Jamaican style of music. That's it.
Appreciate that, Oni. Black Steel, what are your thoughts on this? Something beautiful that shows our connectedness. What do you say?
Well, I think it's good, and I think it just kind of underscores the point that all music created by people, by African people in diaspora, it connects us, and that includes reggae, and that even includes hip hop. We talked about the other day talking about how hip hop was created by Black Americans and Black Americans only, and nobody else had any influence on it. But we can see in the reggae music, everybody's coming together. It doesn't matter who started it. People are just enjoying the music and they're enjoying being with each other, being with other Africans. So I think that that's something that we don't need to lose sight of. Um, I enjoy reggae. I go to a nice reggae concert whenever I get a chance. But all the music has a common source. The rhythms, the lyrics, uh, all of that comes from our shared connected ancestry, which is in Africa. And I think that we don't need to lose sight of that. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this topic. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Black Steel. With that said, folks like Trigger Happy 26 Plus in the chat is asking, is it in Africa? I can't say it's Ethiopia, but somewhere in Africa. Anthony McPhail says it's our African humanity, which is rooted in our Komoyo, our spirituality, and which comes through in our cultural expressions, including music and other arts. But I'll put back up uh, Trigger Happy's question as I go to Buano. Buano, what's the you to all of it?
Yes, sir. So for me, this was just an extension on our last conversation because we had a conversation based on hip hop, and I think that well, I was talking to Razuli, and it seems as if I was just trying to express to him the many genres of African music that exist that is impactful all over the world. And I think that sometimes we forget that being stuck in this pigeonhole conversation. And I just really wanted to show him, physically show him that people, this is taken from, this is in South Africa. This is thousands of miles from Jamaica, thousands of miles from Jamaica. And this is in 2024. Now, the person who wrote this song, his name was Bunny Wailer, one of the Wailers, one of the people in Bob Marley's group. People who I'm familiar with him. And this song was made in the 70s. Okay? And the fact that it's still impactful to our community in 2024, it shows not only the connectedness of the music itself, but the content is still relevant, even in the ghettos of South Africa, even in the ghettos of South Africa to this point, where it's still getting the people to move because it's still impactful. So I just really wanted to impart to him that hey, there are other genres of music that is actually very impactful universally as well. Universally, universally, and sometimes we forget that in our discussions. And I think that music is a force. in the world, and it should be used as a force in the world for good things, for goodness, and something that could bring us together. And I think that this is why I wanted to extend this discussion. I really just wanted to put it before him so he could see it for himself and then come to his own conclusions about our other kinds of conversations, you know. But yeah, but yeah, like I say, this is an old song from Bunny Wailer, one of his old moderation songs. But yeah, but I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there.
In the chat, um, like I said, Anthony McPhail had said that it's our African humanity which is rooted in our Kamoyo, our spirituality, and which comes through our cultural expressions, including music and other genres. To that, Trigger Happy 262 Plus said to Anthony, yeah, a lot of our music definitely has spiritual roots, especially when you look at the evolution of genres on the continent. They only have recent names to them. Trigger goes on to say, in the past, the music is part of ritual to a large degree and highly communal. Anthony in the chat says, Rastafari has taken strong roots in South Africa. There are thousands of Rasta there. That's interesting.
One last thing I
Uh,
wanted to say, Coco. One last thing I wanted to say, brother. As far as when there were revolutions in South Africa and Zimbabwe and Mozambique, many of these revolutionary songs, reggae songs, Bob Marley and Peter Tosh them were singing. These songs used to inspire them to fight. These was their Trumpian. This is the reason why Bob Marley was really one of the only persons permitted to sing at Zimbabwe's independence from outside of Zimbabwe, because they knew that the revolutionary people was inspired by many of these kinds of songs all the way across the ocean. So content is important, but bringing black people together is also important as well. And now the science becomes, how do you do that? And these people use music to bring people together to win their independence and freedom. I think it's important to say that. But I'll leave it, Coco. Sorry for interrupting, brother.
yeah, no problem. Is any last thoughts on this prompt? All right, let's go to the Shoot the Breeze topic number 3 then. Shoot the Breeze topic number 3. What's going on? Shoot the Breeze topic number 3 says Yvette Clarke of the 9th District of New York leads a letter to President Biden urging the exoneration of Papa Garvey, Marcus Garvey, along with other 20 Congress members. Thoughts? So this has 2 links involved. First one will take us to YouTube. All right. So the first one takes us to YouTube. I don't know why this does that shit. Give me 1 second here. Okay. So the first one takes us to YouTube. It's a short video, and then I'll read the next attachment afterwards. So let's watch this. If I have to, I'll play it twice, and then we'll discuss it.
Hi everyone, this is George Cook of African American Reports. Congresswoman Yvette D. Clarke will be the next chairperson of the Congressional Black Caucus when Congress is sworn in January, has led a group of 20 other legislators and asking for the exoneration of Marcus Garvey on the charges of fraudulent use of mail back in 1923. This is not the first attempt at getting Marcus Garvey exonerated. It was tried in 1987 and again in 2004. But this time, 20 legislators, they've written a letter. And part of the letter reads, exonerating Mr. Garvey would honor his work for the black community, remove the shadow of an unjust conviction, and further this administration's promise to advance racial justice. At a time when black history faces the existential threat of erasure by radical state legislators, a presidential pardon for Mr. Garvey would correct the historical record and restore the legacy of an American hero. As we approach the conclusion of your administration, this moment provides a chance to leave an indelible mark on history. And I agree with the 20 Congress members. I think it would only be right for President Biden to pardon Marcus Garvey at this point. He is an American hero. He is a black hero. and I agree with everything the Congressional Black Caucus is asking for. So let me know what you think. Give me your opinion. Should Marcus Garvey be exonerated by President Biden? Goodbye and God bless.
Sorry, computer freezing up a little bit. So that gentleman read a part of the, if I'm not mistaken, he read a part of the uh, letter, but this is your letter here as well. Uh, Letterhead, Congress of the United States, Washington, D.C. This was on December 20th, addressed to Joseph Biden, President of the United States. It says, Dear President Biden, as the historic Biden-Harris administration comes to an end, we respectfully express our strong support for the exoneration of Mr. Marcus Mosiah Garvey's 1923 conviction for fraudulent use of the mail, which was submitted to your administration. Mr. Garvey was a Jamaican-born Pan-Africanist leader who led one of the earliest black civil rights movements in the Americas. Mr. Garvey founded the Universal Negro Improvement Association to challenge racial inequality and inspired millions worldwide as a tireless advocate for black self-determination and economic independence. Through the UNIA, Mr. Garvey established the Black Star Line, one of the first black-owned shipping companies, which connected black entrepreneurs across the Americas. Mr. Garvey published the Negro World newspaper, which at its peak reached a circulation of 200,000 readers weekly. Finally, Mr. Garvey authored the Declaration of Rights of the Negro Peoples of the World to advocate for better treatment of black people globally. Exactly 101 years ago, Mr. Garvey was convicted of mail fraud in a case that was marred by prosecutorial and governmental misconduct. The evidence paints an abundantly clear narrative that the charges against Mr. Garvey were not only fabricated, but also targeted to criminalize, discredit, and silence him as a civil rights leader. In response to this blatant injustice, President Calvin Coolidge commuted Mr. Garvey's sentence upon eligibility. Efforts to clear Garvey's name have persisted for decades. In 1987, under Congressman John Conyers' leadership, the House Judiciary Committee held hearings on Mr. Garvey's exoneration. In 2004, Congressman Charles Rangel introduced a series of resolutions calling attention to the injustice, followed by Congresswoman Yvette Clarke's recent effort to continue these strides. Despite these efforts, Garvey's name has not yet been cleared. This is what the guy read in the video. Exonerating Mr. Garvey would honor his work for the black community, remove the shadow of an unjust conviction, and further your administration's promise to advance racial justice. At a time when black history faces the existential threat of erasure by radical state legislatures, a presidential pardon for Mr. Garvey would correct the historical record and restore the legacy of an American hero. As we approach the conclusion of your administration, this moment provides a chance to leave an indelible mark on history. It says, we thank you for your time and consideration on this important matter. And these are the signatures of others: Rashida Tlaib. That's one name that comes across as familiar. So these are some of the folks who signed along with this as well, which is kind of cool. I just want to point out one thing, though. This paragraph here that breaks down who Garvey was, I'll be honest with you, man. That alone is not going. That alone will prevent that pardon from happening. It's too powerful, you know. But let me hear what my panelists thinking. But first, in the chat, Anthony McPhail says, I wouldn't care if they exonerated the Honorable Marcus Garvey. We African people exonerated him. Marcus Garvey worked for Africans' independence, not American acceptance. I like that. With that said, let me start with Buana on this one. Buana would say it.
I think that although this particular gentleman, his heart was in the right place. I think he is misguided. I think that He need to read a little bit more on Garvey. Anthony McPhail is 100% right on his statements. This guy describes Marcus Garvey as a American hero. I'm thinking to myself, are you crazy? Are you crazy? I mean, have you been smoking meth today? And I'm trying to be level-headed about this. My president doesn't need to be exonerated by Joe Biden. As long as he's been exonerated by African people, I'm fine with that. He's not an American hero. He's not a Jamaican hero. He's an African hero. He's an I could accept that, universally. But I don't. Why would you want to? Thomas Jefferson is an American hero. George Washington is an American hero. They American heroes. Marcus Garvey is not an American hero. Marcus Garvey wasn't trying to fight for American independence and American to get. Go check. Tariq Nasheed is an American hero. Marcus Garvey is a African hero, and when I say Africans, universally, home and abroad. You're barking up the wrong tree with this one. And like I say, I understand you trying to absorb Marcus Garvey of his name in the United States of America. Marcus Garvey is dead now. Let the dead bury the dead. John Clarke say, bury the man and continue to plan. Bury the man and continue to plan. We don't want it. I mean, you could do this if you want to. For me, this amounts to a big nothing burger. It's a big nothing burger. It's about burying the man and continuing the plan. So my president, he's already been exonerated by other African people worldwide. We are continuing his plan and mission. He is not an American hero. Let's get that off the table right away. That's nonsense. But I'll leave it there, Koku. I understand this brother had good intentions, and I don't question his intentions, but he need to read more into what he's actually talking about before he speak on it. But I'll leave it there, Koku.
Just to put it out there, Garvey's son too was trying to get him exonerated before he died. So just to put that out there.
I don't agree with him either.
No, I appreciate that, but I just want to, in fairness, put it out there as well. Let me hear from Black Steel on this. Black Steel, what's it?
I find these exonerations after the fact to be just merely performative. They exonerated Emmett Till. They exonerated the black boy who got executed, George Stinney. After he was put to death by the electric chair at the age of 14. I just find these exonerations after the fact to just be performative. Yeah, you want to clear the person's name, but at the end of the day, does it really matter? Marcus Garvey, by his desire and his goals to organize and unite African people, is always going to be seen as an enemy to the United States because they are opposed to any type of African unification. That's why they locked his ass up in the first place. So to me, I think that these exonerations after the fact, like, who cares? Who cares? People want our enemies to not act like our enemies. And I think that coming to terms with the fact that the African people's unification is seen as a threat by the West is really, people don't really know how to read. How the kids say, don't know how to read the room. They're not reading the room properly. All right. And I find it to be somewhat frustrating because here we are in the year of our Lord 2024, about to be 2025, and we're talking about Marcus Garvey being exonerated. Oh, and it was it was well known even back then. The charges against were fraudulent, right? But the idea that if we just somehow exonerate him or say, hey, we got it wrong back in 1925. It's 100 years ago. I believe it was 1925 Garvey was arrested. So we're talking about 100 years ago. There's nobody alive who was alive back then. Or if they were, they're ancient, right? What does that do for anybody? It's merely a symbolic gesture. Now, for those people who take stock in symbolic gestures, and there are those people who do, I say more power to you. That's not really my thing, but if that's what you want to do, but ultimately these symbolic gestures are just, Band-Aid on a bullet wound. You did everything possible to undermine Garvey's dream. You had him deported back to Jamaica. You never let him come back to the U.S. You did everything possible to undermine his goals. The land he wanted to build, you sold it to the rubber, I think it was Firestone and one of those rubber companies. You did everything you could to undermine what he was trying to do. And it wasn't just white people who did it. I'm looking at you, Dubois. I'm looking at you. It wasn't just white people who did it either. There were some Negroes involved in that too. So, yeah, I just feel like it's really performative. We don't need the United States to exonerate him. He's our hero. And, Jamaica, even though he's not a Jamaican hero, Jamaica put him on the money, right? It was a big deal made a couple of years ago about putting Harriet Tubman on a $20 bill. And to me, it was like, why? We already got black people on the currency all over the world. You just want white people to acknowledge your heroes. And I don't need white people to acknowledge my heroes. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
I appreciate that a bunch, Black Steel. In the chat, I read what Anthony McPhail would have said. Trick Happy 262 Plus says, same. I wouldn't care. They will consider him an enemy forever. As long as we consider him an ancestor or hero forever, all is well. Trigger goes on to say, in Africa, he is a free man. That's how I see it. He dies if we forget him or don't continue his generational mission. So that's some good words from the chat. The chat is kind of quiet tonight, man. Let's get I see there's people out there listening, tuned in. Let's get the chat a little bit more involved if you guys don't mind. With all of that said, Oni, what say you to Yvette Clarke leading a letter to President Biden urging the exoneration of Marcus Garvey?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, man. Yvette Clarke, how long has she been in Congress at this point? You know, in America, I don't know what's going on, but y'all got some long-standing Congress people, and they're so disconnected. Yvette Clarke probably knew Garvey. You know what I'm saying? She probably knew Garvey. Like I'm telling you, man. I was just looking at this story the other day. Coming from America, there's a congresswoman, white congresswoman, some state I can't remember, but maybe like Florida or something. I don't know. But this lady was missing for like 6 months. Okay, she's a sitting congresswoman. She's missing for 6 months. All of a sudden, they find her. Her staff is just covering for her, posting pictures of her and all that kind of stuff. They find her sitting at a nursing home. Don't even know where she at. Like what are they talking about? You know, like you talking about racial justice and like racial justice implies you doing something for people today. Marcus Garvey, amazing human being. I decided to start showing my son uh, Marcus Garvey videos. 'Cause I'm like, yo, that was one of those good men, and you could learn from him because he had that business acumen, that business success, that success. Now, some people are going to say, well, he wasn't a great businessman. Okay, that's good, but how many factories do you got? You know what I mean? Because that man had factories. To this day, you rarely hear about black men with factories. You rarely hear about black men with that kind of success record. Even that said, what are you exonerating somebody who's dead for? Like, would that even make any sense? You should have done it while they were alive. There's such a thing as a dollar short and a day late. You know, it's like a woman telling you, after you married, I really had a crush on you, in high school. Like, okay, you should have told me that in high school. Like, what are you telling me that for? Like, what I'm saying? Like been there, done that, got the T-shirt. So I'm thinking to myself, Yvette Clarke, she needs to retire. Biden needed to retire. I was saying this. One, I don't know why anybody think Biden should be doing anything for them after one, the Democrats kicked him out of the party, and two, he well, he ain't kicked him out of the party, but you know what I'm saying. But they told him you can't rerun, and then his running mate didn't even win. You know, so I mean, I don't see why he would think, oh yeah, well let me go around and do this favor for you guys because like for what? You weren't the winning strategy. He don't owe you nothing. And then two, it's like if you had to ask him for something, what you asking him for this for? Like the American government did not like Garvey. I mean, and you should have been able to read the room. Like I think what happened is that America has this old ass government. And not like the government is old. I mean, not saying wrong with the government old, but I mean like the Congress people, the president, they're all a bunch of old people who are so disconnected from reality. What is the exoneration of Marcus Garvey going to do for anything? Like as far as we all know he wasn't guilty. We all know it was a political stunt to get the dude deported. And then you're gonna say, well, all right, well, Marcus Garvey, 100 years have passed, and now we're going to say, because he said 1923, so so it's over 100 years, right? 100 years have passed, and now we're going to say, you know what? The same thing you wrote inside of inside of Philosophies and Opinions of Marcus Garvey. How the government was this. You're right. 100 years later, congratulations. Okay, now what? It's bizarre. I think if what Yvette Clarke should do as a congresswoman is say, you know what? Oh, because she's a national congresswoman, say, all right, look, every high school needs to have a copy of this book of Garvey's volume. I just said it, but every high school should have a copy of that in the library, or every Black History, civil rights class or whatever, Black History Month, there should be some sort of educational program surrounding Marcus Garvey. Like if you are serious about getting Marcus Garvey vindicated, right? Then put his writing in the schools. Do something meaningful. Don't oh here Biden, I want you to exonerate this guy from 100 years ago, right? And of course Biden probably knew him, so it's just like if Biden's not going to exonerate somebody he knew, what like come on, it's for me it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that a grown person or grown people are worried about a government exoneration as if not being exonerated blocks Marcus Garvey from something. As if not being exonerated blocks Marcus Garvey's children from something. You know? It don't do nothing. It was just a mechanism to get him deported. That was it. It was just a method to get him deported. And he was deported. And you can't like you reverse the exoneration. What he's gonna get imported? No, he's dead. You're just $1 short, a day late. That's all.
Yeah, a couple of things. For those who might not know, Yvette Clarke is the daughter of Una Clarke, and Una, I think Una herself is from Jamaica, and Yvette, of course, is a Jamaican descendant. So Una is about 90, so she wouldn't have known Garvey. Biden wouldn't have known Garvey. But again, this was 101 years ago, right? Garvey didn't live that much longer after this happened, by the way. But I think if I had to play devil's advocate, and I don't like doing that, I think Yvette and them is kind of there's a large Jamaican population in New York City, and I think they might be trying to do something for their base, so to speak. So that might be what it is. In fact, African World mentions it as well. He says, maybe Yvette Clarke's mama knew Garvey, LOL. Sister was born in 1964. Yeah. Um, you know what I mean? So um, that's just to give a little background to it. Me personally, I never thought it was that important to exonerate someone who's dead like that, like Garvey. I think Garvey's works, like to Oni's point, maybe start pushing more of Garvey's teachings. You know, his message to the people book, for example, which is a small book. Um, push some of that in schools and and not just schools, but push it in neighborhoods and amongst your peoples and stuff like that. And how about maybe practicing some of what Garvey had done in his time, while he was alive? I think that's much more important. Interestingly enough, though, I see KW Don 7 says the white nationalist Roger Stone supports a pardon for Garvey. KW Don 7, if you don't mind, give us a little bit more info on as to why he's doing that. Afro Native World says Una Clarke was 6 years old when Papa Garvey transitioned, so probably not either. LOL. So yeah, that's just some background on that. But I'll be curious to know, or if any of my panelists might know, Roger Stone. Why would he, white nationalist Roger Stone? Why would he uh, want to exonerate Garvey? Is there any other thoughts on this prompt by any of the panelists?
Well, I would think it's probably because, back in the day, Mark Garvey met with the Klan, right? And there are those who have had taken issue with that. But this is during the time, especially in the early 1920s, when the Ku Klux Klan was a very mainstream organization. They had, I think it was something like 20 million members. And you had several U.S. presidents um, who were actual Klan members. So this is coming after this is the second Klan. The first Klan kind of ended after the Civil War, but the second Klan was kind of revised in like 1915 after the movie Birth of a Nation. So, anyways, when Garvey met with the Klan, he had several very large confrontations with the Ku Klux Klan. Uh, there was an understanding, almost like two armed camps, right? That Garvey wanted a home for Black people in Africa, and the Klan were like, okay, we get these niggas out of here. We support that too. But I think a white nationalist would support that because their goal is keeping blacks and whites separate, right? They want Black people over there. They want white people over here. So that could very well be my understanding as to why maybe he would be supportive of that, because they had not similar goals, but I think their interests aligned in some way.
I think that it's a matter of sorry, Black Sea, was you finished?
Yeah, I was done.
Okay, so I think that it's a matter of quid pro quo, because how I see it with Roger Stone is if the president or the government exonerates who America perceives as their black supremacists or extremists, then you have to exonerate your white extremists. You have to exonerate your white extremists. So I don't know who white extremists that Roger Clark Stone wants to exonerate. But for me, it's just a matter of quid pro quo. With politics makes strange bedfellows, so people say. So we was having this discussion the other night with Kofi and Forecast, because I was telling them that they are right wing, they are right wing separatists, but they just right wing separatists in a black way, that like the right wing, not a right wing part of the Americans who are separatists, but they are white nationalists. They have the same kinds of views, but they just one thinking of the black way, one thinking of the white way, but they're the same kind of like right wing kinds of people. And it was funny to me. But what I would say is that one last thing I wanted to say, I forgot. I forgot. I forgot. One last thing I wanted to say, but I'll leave it. I'll leave it because I forgot. Completely forget about it. But I'll let you all rock, man.
So in the chat, Trick Hobby 262 Plus says idiots will say Garvey was a fascist because of that, because he had the thing with the Klan. But they don't understand shit about diplomacy. Malcolm X did the same with NOI and the American Nazi Party. If there's no last thoughts here, we can go on to should read topic number 4. I was trying to give Wanda some time to remember what he had to remember, but he didn't.
No, go ahead, Koku, man. It slipped me. It slipped me, man. Go ahead, bro.
All right. So should read topic number 4 says the power of language and how others plan for us. This came with 2 attachments. One takes us to YouTube, and I'll show this one first.
Oh, quickly, Koku. I'm sorry. I remember, Koku. I remember. Brooklyn should be ashamed of themselves. That's what I wanted to say. Brooklyn should be ashamed of themselves. Your brothers in Brooklyn needs a better representation as far as an MP. Because if this lady only chose to give you all symbolism and this electing Garvey in terms of allowing Garvey to be exonerated, to me that's just symbolism. And the brothers from Brooklyn, all the Caribbean and African American, all your brothers need to get a better and sisters need to get a better representation in Brooklyn rather than this sister, because she chooses symbolism over substance. That's all I wanted to say, Kubu. Sorry for interrupting you, brother.
No problem. Cheryl is out there. Cheryl says Ujima. I forgot to mention it was Kwanzaa these past few days here and for the next few days. So she comes in with Ujima greeting. I appreciate that, Cheryl. Good to see you, by the way. What was I doing? Should read topic number 4 says the power of language and how others plan for us 2025 goals. That takes us to this YouTube video. It's called Jesus Film Project's 2025 Vision. We'll watch it, and then I'll show the next attachment, and then we'll discuss.
5 to 10 years, the word that I think of that comes to mind is possible. The Great Commission is possible.
When you get to participate in the Great Commission, you get to invite people into something that is bigger than themselves.
To take his message of hope, of joy, eternal life, and peace with God to every person on earth.
Years ago, Dr. Bright was called by the Lord to start Campus Crusade for Christ. It gave him a vision for winning, building, and sending, and the Jesus Film was created. The overall mission of Jesus Film is to give everyone on earth an opportunity to know and to grow with Jesus. And the way that we do that is by giving access to the gospel in people's heart languages.
People, they have like tears coming when they hear Jesus speak their own language.
I was at a nursing home, and one of the workers there, I asked him, where are you from? And he told me, and I said, I bet I have a film in your heart language. He said, there's no way, no way. And he heard it, and his face was alive. And he said, oh, that's my language. No one here knows my language. And so that's the power of heart language. Is not a call to just anyone out there. It's a call directly to them. It's a personal message when it's in their heart language.
There are pockets of places that have not had access to the gospel for 2,000 years. This generation, I believe God is asking to do something about that. By 2025, we want to see 2,200 languages, big and small, completed in the Jesus Film or in some other Jesus-centered media. And that will cover 99% of the world's speakers. So they'll have access to the gospel in their own heart language. Another big part of reaching everyone everywhere is giving them access continually. That's why by 2025, we want to see 1 billion people reached on an annual basis, primarily through digital means. It can happen. Another 2025 goal is to see 5 million new, thriving churches across the planet, each within walking distance of people who have never heard. And that will mean that they'll have an opportunity to not only know Jesus Christ, but to be able to grow and to connect with other followers of Jesus.
We thank God for the power that there is in the Jesus film as the gospel of Jesus Christ is shared among people, and it is such a vital and important message in our generation today.
Today, the film has come to the people in their own language.
The gospel is for everybody and it's clear. It just needs an opportunity to be shown. None of us can do the job on our own. We might have the vision and we might be able to see what it's going to take, but there's no capacity that we can engender that will get the job done. So partnerships, everybody bringing everything to the table is what's necessary.
Never before in history have we had the opportunity that we have for the next 5 years because of what we're being asked into from the body of Christ.
When we join together, we see God work.
This is a very good opportunity right now for the Jesus film.
This is an all-play moment for the body of Christ. Everyone reaching everyone. That's really the mission, and it hasn't changed for 2,000 years. It's the Great Commission. It's the story, the most purposeful thing that we can be a part of. And I believe.
Jesus Christ. I mean, my God. These guys. Yeah, boy. There's a question I kind of want to ask. I'll probably ask it as a follow-up question, but there's a question I want to ask you guys too about this. But this prompt came with a second attachment. Let me make sure it's showing. See, this is what I don't get. Let me share my screen again. So it's not me shutting off the screen. It's this software that's doing that. Okay, so we should have. All right, there we go. God damn. We should have the image up now. We'll play this and then we'll discuss all of it afterwards.
He arrived here in Africa in 1907, Port Elizabeth. He and his wife, before they got married, and also Ita Inis, God called him to come to Africa, so he came here. So they started working among the people there around Port Elizabeth. But they couldn't continue the work there because they couldn't get permission from the British government. So they moved over to Natal. They joined a mission there. They started learning the Zulu language. They received word from home that their local church in America had joined with the Church of the Nazarene. So the church in America requested them to be Nazarene missionaries. Then they went to Swaziland. He saw an opportunity there to start work there as Nazarene missionaries. There were no roads, no bridges crossing the rivers. It took them a long time before they had a convert. There was a time when they didn't have food. So that was a difficult time for them. He kept going because he was constrained by the love of God that made him to continue preaching. He worked with the people. He loved the people. When the people loved him, he knew their language. He spoke in their language. And they accepted him. He preached. The Swazis heard his messages. What he told them, it was sort of a bitter to them. They gave him a name, Sibaha. Sibaha, a bitter African medicine. They said his messages were bitter, they were strong against sin, but it was bringing healing to them. After Melzba started to work there, then the Church of the Nazarene sent missionaries, they came, worked in Swaziland and some worked here in South Africa. The Heinz came from Scotland to start work there as medical missionaries. So the work started to grow. They preached and build churches. They taught, they built schools. They healed and built hospitals. So all this is the work that started by Smith, but it grew and is still continuing today. We are a holiness church. Smith came from America, preaching the same message of holiness. And their testimonies, their lifestyle was a great witness and teaching to the people.
My goodness. Wow. With that said, I guess should be something before the power of language and how others plan for us 2025 goals. Let me start with Black Steel on this one. Black Steel, what are your thoughts here?
I'm surprised that anybody's surprised at this. I'm truly surprised that anybody's surprised at this. This is the Great Commission, right? Anybody who's been in church, who's raised in church, like most of us probably has, is well aware of the Great Commission, which is given to all Christians to spread the gospel. Go and make disciples of all nations. Baptize them in the name of the Father and of the Son and the Holy Spirit. Teach them to obey everything I have commanded you. Jesus also declares that he has all authority in heaven and on earth and promises to be with his disciples until the end of the age. So this is something that has been done by many Christians. This is not anything new. It's not anything that I'm going to quote Matthew 16 through 20. It says, when they saw him, they worshiped and doubted. And Jesus said unto them, all authority in heaven and earth has been given unto me. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So what they're doing is they're making it easier. They feel, and a lot of Christians believe, that they have an obligation to spread the gospel. That's what makes Christianity an evangelic faith, right? The idea that they have to evangelize and spread the religion all over. Now, every religion doesn't take converts. Like Hinduism doesn't take converts. It's not really common for many religions to seek out and convert people to their belief. But Christianity and Islam too are very aggressive in their need to convert people. And they're trying to do it in their language. They figure we'll be able to convert people easier if we speak to them the gospel in the language that they were born in. And it's very insidious. It's very because religion is a tool of colonization. The religion is first, it lays the foundation for the takeover. That's how you colonize people within their mind first before you colonize their land. Take them over mentally. So that's all this process is really the beginnings of them trying to recolonize Africa and convert people to their religion. Now it's not just Africa though. So I want that to be said because many Christians see Hinduism, which has well over 1 billion followers in India. They consider that a place that is quote unquote ripe for the gospel. China is quote unquote ripe for the gospel. All of these people who may cling to their indigenous beliefs are primed and ready. So they're going to make sure that they translate the Bible into as many languages as possible to spread the gospel as part of their religion. And their need to seek followers and whatnot. So they're going out their way to convert people and get more people to join the religion because the truth of the matter, especially within the Western world, the population of people who are Christian is declining. So as you notice within the West, maybe among white people, the number of people who are churchgoers are starting to plummet. Not so much plummet, but they're less and less every year. Whereas um, religions like Islam, which Islam is the fastest growing religion because many countries that are Islamic have high birth rates. So Islam is continuing to grow. Christianity is actually starting to decline. So this is something they consider an existential threat, right? So they're going to try to convert people who have never been converted before, people who have never had access to the religion of Christianity. We're talking about uncontacted tribes in the Amazon, uncontacted tribes in Papua New Guinea, people who Sri Lanka, North Sentinel Island. They want to get as many people as they can, and also too, this also falls into the second the prophecy of the second coming of Christ, right? So Jesus cannot return until all the world has knowledge of Christ. So this also falls into the prophecy of the return of Christ and the second coming and the rapture and the tribulation. These events cannot come to pass until the whole world has knowledge of the gospel. So in order to hasten that quote unquote great day where we all be caught up in the clouds and return and with the Lord, everybody has to know about Jesus. That means you got to reach everybody in that little small, isolated tribe in the Congo. You got to reach them pygmies on the Congo River. You got to get those people in the Amazon who've never seen a white person before. Everybody has to have knowledge of Christ. And only then can the second coming and the rapture begin to take place. Right? So there's certain conditions. These I'll go deeper in this because a lot of these evangelical Christians, right? They want to create the situation to where Jesus can return, right? That means that the Jewish temple has to be rebuilt in Jerusalem. That means they have to eradicate the Muslims. That means no more Palestine, no more Dome of the Rock, all of East Jerusalem, which is in the West Bank, which is supposed to be an international city, that's all got to come back under control of Judaism. That's why when Donald Trump said he was going to move the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, so many Christians were excited about that because this was the fulfillment of what they felt was biblical prophecy. And this preaching the gospel to every nation. That's another fulfillment of biblical prophecy. They want the world to end so that Jesus can come back, and they're willing to do whatever they have to make those conditions happen. All right, and I agree with everybody in the chat saying they're delusional and it's nonsense. I can smoke a bag of that, but these people are willing to die behind these beliefs, and not only are they willing to die, they're willing to make sure you die behind their beliefs too. So they're not just going to stop. And Trigger had to talk about Greater Israel too. This is an expansion project of Israel. They want to expand not just in their geographical borders, but also in Egypt, in Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Saudi Arabia. So this could be the very beginnings of the potential of a World War III, because many, like Pakistan, majority Muslim nation, nuclear armed. India, Hindu, nuclear powers. These people are not going to take kindly to seeing their way of life threatened. Africa is already majority 95% Christian or Muslim, right? So most of the work in Africa has already been done, I believe, at least as far as the Christians. They may try to convert some of those Muslims in Africa. They may have some success. I don't know. But 95% of Africa belongs to either Islam or Christianity. There's only small pockets of Africa that belong to the African spiritual indigenous religions that exist in Africa. And those, again, those tribes that might not be connected to civilization, that are kind of living their lives, apart from like the Sand people, the Pygmy, those people right there. They tend to stick to their own indigenous beliefs. But yeah, it's something that is concerning, but this is the pattern that the Europeans always live. They always lead with their religion. They always lead with their God and whatnot. And once they take you over spiritually, they can take over your land, your resources, and everything else. All right, and I'm done. Thanks, Koku.
I can listen to you continue for a while there. By the way, it's only us on the panel tonight, so we have the ability to expand a little bit more if you guys want to. With that said, let me hear from Oni on this one. Oni, what say you?
Yeah, what I pick up from this is that white boy be working. Like that first video, dude has 2,200 languages for his propaganda, and he's going around the world showing his propaganda to remote people who possibly never saw a film, and that is work. That's work. I think that, when you compare that to, even us, right? Where, or even like, let's say, for instance, we doing this program right now and it's only in English, right? So, but not just that, how much are we going into remote villages to play, the propaganda, the message, or what have you? What white people are doing is kind of why white people are on top, and we have to like come to terms with that. You know, Martin Delaney wrote a long time ago, so this was over 100. This is over before Papa Garvey, so over 100 years, maybe 150 years, who knows, right? But he says, whatever liberty is worth to the whites, it is worth to the blacks. Therefore, whatever it costs the whites to obtain it, the blacks would be willing and ready to pay if they desire it. You have to you have to fight fire with fire. You have to match fire with fire. This white boy has his agenda, and he is spreading it. He is spreading it very creatively and very actively. He's converting your people. Dude said, "Oh, because I was watching that Shaka Zulu documentary. Dude said, "Oh, we went to the Port Natal, a new opening. We went right to the Zulu. You understand? Not too many black folk going to walk up, march up straight to the Zulu at that point in time. Okay, we went straight to Shaka Zulu and said, "Let us preach here." Okay, like this dude is serious. And that's one of the things that really takes me back is that a lot of times we say, "Oh man, this white boy, he did this, he did that, and so forth." Yeah, but the reality is this: one of the things that the white boy has that a lot of us don't have. You know, I don't want to say myself included, but myself included, right? A lot of us don't have that seriousness. Of course, we don't have the finances that this white boy has too. So that kind of excuses us, right? Exonerates us if we go back to the last one. But this white boy is serious. 2,200 languages, and the thing is that a lot of times he learns 2,200. Like he learns these languages. Like the guy who goes to Shaka Zulu with them, right? He learns the language. Like I've been in Tanzania for a minute. I ain't learned the language. This shit's hard. This dude is serious about pushing their propaganda, and it pays off in dividends. Whereas the Pan Africanist propagandists, they not that serious. I'm not saying that it's not being done, but it's not as serious. I did run into a brother recently. He said, "Hey, look, we got this school and it's Pan African and blah blah blah." And he was out here in Tanzania. He was speaking English and all that kind of stuff, and it sounded cool, right? But as far as like I'm telling you guys, I went to a remote ass village in Tanzania, remote ass village. I heard there was a party going on or some shit. Not party, but like They were going to play some traditional music and stuff. So we on motorcycles driving through fields and fields of nothing. Okay, like fields of like corn or some shit, wheat or something like that, right? All of a sudden, I start hearing music, right? And I'm thinking, oh, this is probably the music. It was gospel music from some remote ass church. These white boys went so deep in some remote village where there's no where there's no roads, you just gotta so on and so forth, no cars, and they built a church. And the thing is that, we as African people could do something so easy too. Now, of course, I'm not going to tell you that there's no cost associated with it. Of course, there's a cost. But that's the thing about these white boys, how serious they are. Because like, here's another thing too. Like, we go back to the first story. White boy says, you know what? I think we need to spread this propaganda. This propaganda is going to benefit white people. So I'm going to put my money where that is to go benefit my people, right? And he might not have that much money, but he's going to take his family, take his wife, and put it inside and so forth. Black person with money, what did they say? I'll give this white boy $60,000 a year to educate my child, to condition my child to be like him. That's the big difference. This white boy is, he might have that $60,000 a year. I mean, I don't. But he might have that $60,000 a year to spend, and he puts it towards putting his culture out there. Okay, the same black person in the same economic bracket, or maybe even a higher economic bracket, says, "Yo, what you know what? What I'm gonna do with my $60,000? Try to make my child like this white man." See, because the white man's not saying, "I want to make my child like the black man." When he goes to Africa, he said, I want to make the black man like my child. Okay? And here you have the black man saying, I want to make my child like the white man. That's the big difference. And I'm telling you, white people put in work. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
I appreciate that. Only just out of curiosity, did you ever check out the Pan African school?
I couldn't. It was on the other side of town. I mean, we talking
Oh,
about that, but he put in work. No, but I mean, like, I couldn't enroll my kid because it was like, he would have to go through like 5 hours of traffic just to get there. You know what I mean? So it's just, it didn't make any
right,
sense to.
right.
Basically, he didn't want to wake up earlier. Basically, he didn't want to wake up early.
But no, traffic here is not like, it's not real traffic. You know what I mean? Like, you talking about, yeah, you're not getting it. You know what I mean? Like, for some reason they, like, the trucks all go like during rush hour. So the trucks be driving during rush hour. I don't know. I think I get on the same damn road. We don't see that even in New York City where they complain about traffic. Like, you don't be having trucks driving around on the main road, in the middle of the freaking day. It's just not. It's like you're not going. You're gonna send your kid to school and he's not gonna come back till like 9 p.m. or some shit. So it's just nah. It ain't even worth it.
All right, gotcha.
But you know what
Um,
though? I don't want this to be just about white people, because it's not going to be just white people who are spreading the gospel. It's going to be
No.
their own people. Their own. Well, I mean, where do you think they're learning how to translate these languages in the first place? It's not just about what white people, it's what we're doing, right?
Yes, yes.
Again, not even the overwhelming majority of the African continent is already converted to an Abrahamic religion, be it Judaism, be it Christianity or Islam, right? And I'm gonna tell you something. These black Christians from off the continent are the most fanatical Christians you're
Yes,
ever
sir.
going to
Yes,
meet.
sir.
All
Yes,
right.
sir.
They believe this more than the white people do. I think it was John Henry Clarke. He said that black people are the true believers. They said that we out-pope the Pope and we will out Muhammad. Black people are the most religious people on the earth, right? So it's not about just white. It's gonna be black people spearheading this
Oh
charge
yes,
to
sir.
convert
Yes, sir.
people to this religion.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, they do it for the what is it called, what's that thing, Scooby Doo, the Scooby biscuits or something like that. They doing it for that. They doing it for these white boys.
They do it because
Screw
they
you.
want to go to heaven. They want to go to heaven.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, when all the angels is white, man. You see, like Dr. Clark
Nah.
said,
In heaven, everybody's made pure, man. You got to believe. See, you're not the thing
yeah,
is,
Oh,
you're not thinking like a Christian, bro.
all of y'all Negroes, all of y'all Negroes. Let me make my
Go ahead,
statements, y'all
Mark. Go ahead.
Negroes.
Sure.
Yeah, let me rock out, and I'll let y'all rock. I'll let y'all rock. So I think that this is has to do with marketing and brand superiority. Marketing and brand superiority. So the Europeans are marketing their brand. Their brand is what? We're gonna put God in the white man's position and have the whole world worship us. How do they do this? Well, you think of people like Joseph Smith. Joseph Smith, he started it off with the Latter-day Saints, putting God in the white man's position. Brigham Young, all of these people in Utah, you know what I mean? All these people in Utah, they started Warren Jeffs. They started it off, putting these people, these spiritual people or religion itself, the godhood in a white man's perspective, white man's spectacles, and making the world look at the white man as God himself. Then L. Ron Hubbard, these people have left Scientology, came and left their mark and put spirituality, God, and anything related to spirituality in their position. He wants the world. They want the world to look at them as the godhood. They've done this, but even the Catholic Church too, because they're guilty of this too with the popes. You know what I mean? The Pope is supposed to be the vicar of Christ. You know what I mean? God's representative. They've done this for a very, very long time. Islam has done it as well. Islam has done it with Muhammad. Islam has done it with the sheikhs. They've done it a long, 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 long time. The Chinese have done it. The Chinese, maybe not in a spiritual way, but if you ask the Chinese person in terms of godhood and who they respect and Lord of, they'll tell you about Mao Zedong. They'll tell you, but what's the guy from North Korea, Kim Jong Un and shit like that. And they put them in the God position, and they make the world believe it. I mean, well, most of the world don't look at Kim Jong Un as God, but their people do. Their people do. In Americas, there was a movement in terms of marketing, marketing, and brand superiority. You used to have of Indian people coming from India. There was this guy named Osho. Osho came to the United States. The government had to run Osho out of the United States because he was converting so many people and gaining so many followers. People was worshiping Osho, this Indian guy, as a god. They used to call him a guru, Indian guru. Sai Guru is another one right now. They have the religious weapon is what the world uses outside of science and technology and the propaganda that they use the religion weapon to propagandize people universally to follow after them. We tried it. The only African spiritualists that who I believe did that work, but unfortunately it was so few of them is Credo Mutwa. There was this guy named Credo Mutwa. He was pushing African spirituality universally. So much so that there was this British guy who was following after him very, very he was one of his adherents. His name is I can't remember his name now.
David Icke.
His name is David Icke. He was one of Cradle Mutua followers. But the black people who was actually trying to use the religion as a weapon was, and unfortunately they died, or they went to jail, was Malachi Z. York. For people, I know people don't like him. Um, Yahweh Ben Yahweh was another one. They used to call them cult members. And Farrakhan, now the Nation of Islam calling them Jesus Christ. But they use religion as a weapon to propagandize people to follow after them. They use it as a weapon, just as Joseph Smith them did. And as Joseph Smith them was a cult, and now they are considered to be a religion, Black people have the same contention. They have their work to do. So for people like Trigger Happy, because they are religious, they are spiritualists. People like Trigger Happy, them people like Erzuli, them, they have work to do. They have work to do. They have to set out the propaganda as well. Because if these people could use religion as a weapon, so can you. So can you. So this is a challenge to my spiritualist brothers to use religion as the weapon, as these people do too. They have an agenda, so you should create an agenda as well. I'll leave it there and let Jose go because I heard his voice.
Yeah, hello, hello.
Jose, how
Sometimes
are you doing?
Hey, Jose, how you doing?
I'm okay. I'm okay. How are y'all doing?
Peace, peace.
Good. Thanks for coming through.
Uh, uh um um oh shit, what was it? Yeah. What was what was Agazuki's last words? He was going to let me speak. Oh, you know what? You know, forget
Yes.
about it. I posted it before this word game, right? Those people, they don't have an agenda. They are, they don't have, they are determined. And I posted the word game determination. You know, determination. We don't determine a nation. We are humans. You know, we are the original. We are just there. And these creatures with with a you know we are the thing, right? So there's no pressure to determine our nation in your face. You know, we're just there, and like we have always been there. But all these other nations, you know, especially whites, they determine a nation in your backyard, in your front yard, in your kitchen. You know, so yeah, maybe we should start to determine a nation. You know, uh, 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 the planet was our nation, and then our children started acting up, and now we follow the religion of our children. You know, we need determination. That's what we miss. We just let things happen because we happen. And yes, that's the natural cause. You know, that's how nature works. That's how the universe works. You happen, right? And these people, they don't happen. They force, they elbow, they put a foot in your door, etc. And because of that, it's like racism. Because racism exists, we need to be racist to survive racism, right? So this thing also, we existed, but because this mental virus exists, we need to develop a resistance. And it's the same thing, determination, but in defense. Determination, how you know, how willing, how autopilot do are we how autopilot is our agenda. You know, how autopilot, and that has to be every individual, and that's gonna be tough, you know. But yeah, we need to be determined. Yeah, determination, we need to determine our nation. Thanks.
I
Oh, and
appreciate that, Jose. My follow up.
sorry, I
Go
forgot.
ahead, Jose. Go ahead.
Yeah, I forgot. You know, they're nonsense, and what Trigger Happy no excuse me, Black Steel explained, like you know, go baptize, etc. You know, spread the word, and baptizing. John the Baptist is so effing African. Like, you go to the Marabu in Senegal, you go to a Marabu, or here in the Netherlands, you know, you go to a person like that. He watches you first. He watches you. He looks into your soul, right? And then you have this conversation, with him, her, and by what he or she sees and hears from you, the medicine is determined. The medicine is chosen, right? What you need, and the medicine is most of the time it's a bath. It's some leaves, some seasoning, some seasoning of the water, right? And you're supposed to bath, to shower slash bath in that water, right? And these Christians, they watered it down. These savages, they didn't understand our spirituality, higher science, and they watered it down. They just, you know, I mean, if I'm looking at you, to a third person, it's like I'm doing nothing, right? That's nothing. But when I start pouring water over your body, yeah, that's I recognize that, right? So they them with their level of spirituality or consciousness, they only saw people throwing water over the other one, and nowadays it's called baptizing, and it's just water. It's just water, either sprinkled over somebody or dipping somebody in a river. But John the Baptist is pure African spiritualism, and maybe that's the um, maybe that's the opener. Maybe that's the appetizer for Africans to get out of Christianity and find themselves back. If you understand what I mean, because to start with a whole new story, to wash away Christianity or what's it called, Islam, that's gonna be tough, right? So if you find people where they are, so you're Christian, and yeah, baptism is a thing for you. Well, let me explain to you, my dear African brother, sister. John the Baptist is a marabu, or however you call it in your culture language. So yeah, we have work to do, and what I suggest is take John the Baptist and rub it under African noses, so they smell the coffee. Thanks.
I appreciate that, Jose. I still, some of you have touched on this, what I'm going to ask, but the thing that perplexes me, and my follow up question to you guys is, to take away the forced element of these religions being placed on us, because let's face it, in 2024 this stuff is not forced on us anymore. It hasn't been forced on us in quite a while. What is the lure of Jesus? Can someone tell me what is the lure of Jesus? A white guy, no matter how you try to Africanize the shit, with some white guy who was out here giving gospels or whatever. Or what's the lure of Muhammad, for for instance? Like, what is the psychological lure of these things that it still persists today? Even our ancestors who had it beaten into them, once you had the ability to kind of get away from these people and get away from that, why not just get away from it completely? What was the lure? Does anyone want to venture as to what that
So
lure is?
I would say part of the lure, in my humble opinion, is first of all, African people are extremely religious, right? So I think during the 5th century BC, the Greek historian Herodotus went to Kemet, and he said that the Egyptians were the most excessively religious of all men. So this is going back way even pre-Christianity, pre-Islam. He said these are the most religious people in the world, right? It's just an observation that he made. But I think a part of it is that when Marx said that religion is the opiate of the masses, right? And one thing I will say is that nobody suffers more than black people. Nobody has been through the things that we have been through. Not to say other people haven't been exposed to genocide and slavery and other horrible things, but African people, number one, we're extremely religious. Number two, we suffer a great deal. You know, you every time you cut on the TV, something horrible has happened to an African person. Somebody's been set on fire. They got children enslaved in mines in the Congo, and they want something, just something to make it ease the pain a little bit. So religion does that, right? Religion also has a way to soothe the pain. It does what it does to that way it gives you hope for a better tomorrow, hope for a better future. And that's something that religion is done for. And also it gives you surety in the unknown. So like you know where you're going when you die. Right? When you pass away, you know what's going to happen to you. You're going to be in heaven or you're going to be with your God. And that's something that's very important for many African people. Christianity in its inception did not start in Europe, right? Christianity began as a small persecuted sect of Judaism which existed in what is now Palestine. So one thing about white people, they'll adapt it. So Christianity becomes the organized religion of the Roman Empire during the reign of Constantine, about the 4th century or whatever. So even though Christianity itself was kind of again a small persecuted sect of Judaism, once Europeans adopted it, they twisted it and they made it fit their ideology. So now it becomes a religion of conquest. So now we're spreading the word of the Lord by the sword and the cross. That's why you get the Crusades. That's why you get the conversion of the indigenous people of the Americas and the conversion of Africans. And you know, everywhere you go, you see that. But really, the appeal is number one, people are scared of the future. People are suffering in this life, and they want hope for a better tomorrow. And these religions, these beliefs, they've been demonized for so long, right? You can't, you know, any form of African spirituality is seen almost as demonic or satanic. And you can point out for example, right? If you go to any courthouse, right, you see that blind woman holding a scale in her hand, right? That's the Greek goddess. You know, you could talk about Thor and you could talk about Zeus and Apollo, and that won't really be a problem. In school, kids read about the Odyssey, they learn about Athena and Odysseus and Poseidon and everything else. But you start talking about some African stuff, you start talking about Shango and Yemaya and Ogun, bruh, the entire energy shifts because we have been taught to demonize our own culture and to see our society and see our cultural practices as demonic, as something inherently coming from Satan, right? So you got to overcome that. What is it in Jamaica? Is it obia, which is witchcraft.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It is witchcraft, which is created by the devil. Okay, so you can't get past that stigma that they've inflicted upon any type of African spiritual belief. So whenever they're suffering and they they want something's going on, they miss their family, they're hungry, they're suffering, their children are hungry, they're going to reach back to what has been indoctrinated within our people for over half a millennia, which is Christianity, which is Islam. For Islam, more than half a millennia. You're going back almost 1,000 years to when they brought Islam into West Africa and North Africa. I think one of Muhammad's first converts was an African. So yeah, it's a lot, but I think the demonization of African spirituality has a lot to do with it, because our own spiritual practice are seen as inherently evil. I'll leave it there.
I'll add. I agree. I understand everything Black Steel is saying, but the issue I have with it when it comes to our people is, I mean, just look at it in the West here. You know, the cop who kills your brother is a Christian. The whole government claims to be Christian. Uh, uh, in the Congo, you're being starved because the leadership claims Christianity, and different, these various places claiming to be Christian nations. I come from a place that claims to be a Christian nation, but some of the worst things happen to you under these nations. My thing is, when does it? What is the hold of this so-called Jesus and Muhammad and whatnot that that doesn't allow you as an individual to say, you know what, enough of this shit. I need to go back to what I was, because the reality of it is, those of us at present and for the last however many 100 years or so or two, we've never practiced African spirituality. We don't know the benefits of it. We don't know how it works. We don't know what we can get from it, what it does for us psychologically, etc. Why is it that this white boy Jesus and this other guy Muhammad, right, has this hold so much so that all the atrocities happen under these religions, right? People don't talk about the Islamic slave trade, how bad that was, right? The whole Ma'afa happens under the Christians and Jews. So, like, when is it that we're gonna say no mas? That's enough of that shit. Let me go look about my own traditional uh, teachings, philosophy, spirituality. Because again, neither me nor my father nor my father's father, and you could go down that line for a minute. None of us practice African spirituality. So when is it that we're gonna go back and say, you know what, it's time to try something different? Maybe
The
it's
the
time to be us.
the
That's
the Sorry
go
for
ahead, brother.
interrupting. Sorry for interrupting, Coco. The African spiritualist has to come out of the closet, just as the Christian televangelist does, and all these other Abrahamic religion teachers do. In terms of the Western Hemisphere, the African spiritualist has to come out of the closet. You know who has a thriving um, African religion kind of culture? Mexico. The Spanish, the Spanish cultures. Unfortunately, they have a thriving culture that is not necessarily from that. Even though they have Catholicism, they have various African religions that still is pervasive within their culture. I guess the Spanish wasn't. I don't know what Spanish colonialism was, and how harsh it was, but they still do have a thriving kind of African culture within their society and culture. Surprisingly, surprisingly, they do.
You're already seeing it. Kinda. It's kinda.
Kinda.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
I've been
But what I
I've been invited here in the Netherlands. I've been invited to that church. I never went, but yeah, it's kind of funny. They smoke weed, and they use plant that gets you high. Right? Is it that one?
Yeah, they have several. There's several. Yeah, several.
But
It's a,
kinda, and those the marabu, they are either Christian or Muslim, but they are marabu, you know, and maybe it could be that the religion part is like for you as a reference, right? But no, it's not. It's really, they are Muslim or they are Christian and they practice African spirituality. But yeah, if the Christians with God and Jesus, and and ask you to pray to God, and the Islamic African spiritual person, he will so they do their ritual, they give you the medicine, right, the seasoned water, and they ask you to pray, like so apparently African spirituality, maybe we are programmed to I mean Islam, those churches, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, they have a certain system. They have a certain way of doing, and we have been programmed to want our thing, but done like done like them. But if you understand what I'm saying, so we're talking now, in this conversation we are demanding, why don't we have our spirituality, etc., etc. But what does that mean? Do we need a system like them, right, with foot soldiers and priests and buildings, that we call them synagogue, church, or whatever. Is that what we need as a people?
I think, Buana, you mentioned something, and I think the difference, I think, between like those colonies, those people who were colonized by like Roman Catholic, like the French, the Spanish, the Portuguese, and those of us here in the U.S. who were colonized by the Protestants, right? So the Catholics, they didn't seem to be driven by the same demons that the Protestants were. These Puritans, these Pilgrims, and whatnot. Um, so they kind of were willing to let African people practice their religion, just kind of, as long as you niggas work, we don't care what y'all believe in. We ain't trying to save y'all souls, whatever. You want to beat your drums, you want to do whatever. They didn't seem to have the same insistence on wiping out the culture that the Puritans and the ones who settled North America did. um, they were driven by much harsher demons. I think this. They used to flagellate themselves and everything else like that. There was definitely a cruelty that the British had and these Puritans had that um, the Catholics didn't have for some reason. And that could also be why the African influence is stronger within like Africa and I thought within the Caribbean and Latin America more so than it is within the United States.
The Catholicism is anything goes.
Let me just add.
If you go ahead, Coco.
Let me just add this. Bueno mentioned that the African spiritualists need to get to work, and I don't disagree with that whatsoever. I agree with that 100%. But you know who also needs to get to work? We need to get to work. Whether you put down the Christianity thing or the Islam thing, again, I think I declared this for myself at the beginning of the year, and now we're at the end of it. But like, we have to take on, each of us has to take on the idea of, I'm going to talk about what my ancestors talked about. I'm going to interest myself in what my ancestors, and I ain't talking about these recent ancestors who were broken down and whatnot, but I'm talking about like our traditional ancestors. I need to go back and discuss those things. The idea, right? And I grew up in an Anglican church, just to be clear. The idea that folks will sit down and read the genealogy of Christ and think that that has something to do with them is insane. Is absolutely insane. The thing that has anything to do with you is insane. So why not go back to? So why talk about what these other people talk about when they talk about their ancestors? Sarah begat blah 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 and this that and the other. Why not go back and talk about your ancestors, man? And I know we might not have all the information, but some of it still lives. Go back and pick that up. So it's not just the African spiritualists. And I agree, they need to get They need to get on the ball like 2 weeks ago, right? That's how soon they need to get on the ball. But we too need to go and pick up a book or pick up whatever carries the information, and we need to immerse ourselves in that too. Whether you even whether or not you even believe in some of the African spirituality stories or deities or whatever, it was what your ancestors talked about. So you don't have to necessarily lay your life on all of it per se, but at least if you're talking about what your ancestors talked about, you'll be doing something for yourself, right? Go back and try to learn about it in their language or something. But to sit up here and could repeat the catechism, that's something I had to do as a kid. Repeat the fucking catechism. To go and repeat that shit and to know the whole story of the Nicaea uh, creed and all that. I mean, come on, dog. Like at some point, there's personal responsibility we must have. We must say to ourselves, this shit really ain't working for us. I go to church every week. I give 10%. I saw Umar talking about this. I go to Bible study on Wednesday. I go to this on Thursday. I go to that on Tuesday. But it does nothing for me except make me feel like I know I'm going where I die. To Black Steel's point, but no one knows what the fuck happens after you die. Not even these people. When I forget the preacher in Brooklyn, I forget his name now, the one who got robbed during a live stream service. When they pulled the gun on, what did he do? He ducked his ass behind a pulpit. He didn't stand up strong and tall and say, "Yeah, man, send me to my maker. Send me to heaven." He ducked his ass. So like we have that responsibility. It's time for us as individuals too to look at our situation and say, you know what, man, this shit that we've been doing, shout out to what's my man in prison, Brother Polite. He had one video some years ago where he was taking down this Muslim guy. And he was like, man, my grandmother followed this shit. She died. My black aunt had cancer, come and die. Like he went through it like, yo, dude, there's a point where you gotta sit down honestly with yourself and say, this stuff has had little material benefit. And it's time for me perhaps to find something that 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 would vibe with me better. I know I'm on a little bit of a rant here, so pardon me for that. I think Jose wanted to add something. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, let me start with some gospel then. Maybe I already told this story, right? I was with my son at the beach, and he disappeared. He was gone. And Yeah, panic. I had help. I had help of the Dakar police force looking for my son, and via another city, Saint Louis. I had fam there, and one of their sons worked at the police, and he called his colleague in the car, and half the police force was looking for my child, etc., etc. And after a few hours, I was like, but wait a minute, I have a brother from another mother, and he's a marabu. So I called him, and okay, he asked me for. He was also in Saint Louis. I was in Dakar, and he asked me for some money for the sacrifice, right? And in the West, with all these Islamic and Christian, when you speak of African spirituality and sacrifice, it's immediately sacrificing humans and whatever. That's Hollywood, right? That's the synagogue of the synagogue of Satan. But what he asked for, it was like $35. He bought some bird, like the family of a chicken. He bought cookies. He bought some sweet condensed milk, and that's the sacrifice to give to poor people, to children in the streets, right? That was the sacrifice, and he did his work. And he said, before midnight, your son will be back. And I was like, yeah, of course, okay. I did that part, and I continued with the police and walking the whole neighborhood, etc. And like Like 10 minutes, 10 or 5 minutes before 12, I get a call of the hotel where I was, and a deaf somebody that can speak and can hear, deaf and how do you call it in English? But anyway, a young man that cannot speak and he cannot hear brought him, and he was miles away. He was downtown Dakar. He was miles away, and this
Deaf or
deaf,
dumb?
yeah, deaf and dumb. This deaf and dumb young man brought him to the hotel, to the small pension where we stayed, and well, voila, that's my gospel. African spirituality works. How it works, I have no clue, but it works. Dude did his prayer. He gave some children, poor children in the street, some cookies and some condensed milk. He slaughtered the chicken and gave it to neighbors or people in his neighborhood, and and he got the spirits to bring my son to back to me. So there you go. That's my gospel.
By the
Appreciate
way,
it,
Jose,
Gospel.
you are living my dream. Because one day I want to come to Senegal. So you living the dream right now for me. You know.
But I wanna point out, because I think Kogu asked, what's the appeal of these religious groups, and I think we can glean from not just the documentary, but even the stories that we share, how there is a material benefit. And I was kind of on the fence about mentioning the material benefit, in so much as it sounded like these people were broke. Eventually you were broke, but then you got to ask yourself, okay, how are you broke and traveling across Africa, and then finding some place to build a church, and then finding some place to build a school, and you're still getting mail, and you realize these people weren't broke, right? They were paying people to help them transport from city to city. They were exercising some level of generosity. You might say, oh, well, they were exploiting them for paying them for moving. And it's like, no, you know, you could look at it as exploitation, but the people there are not going to look at it as exploitation if you pay them for moving. You pay them a little bit of money for moving. Like here in Africa, for instance, people will, like, you will come off with a bus, and people will stand by the bus to help you, with your bags to whatever hotel you're staying at. I personally don't partake, but a lot of people do partake, and to them, those people who partake are seen as generous. Now, and they're not seen as exploitative, because again, these are young men standing around looking for work, looking for small jobs. But regardless, what I'm saying is that these guys in the story, the first story, I think, are, I don't remember which one it is, but maybe the first story, where the guy's traveling across Africa, and he's whatever. He builds a school, right? And not just that, we have to remember that at this point in time, up until Trump's first term or whatever, America was the I'm just joking. But America was the superpower of the world. Okay, so this guy has a direct connection to the superpower of the world as far as the locals are concerned. Because even here in Africa, some guy was, he called me and he said, "Oni, I think there would be a, you should resell, American goods and all that kind of stuff, here in Africa. You would make a lot of money, blah 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 blah." And I'm like, dude, I don't have those kind of connections. What are you talking about, right? But the impression by people in Africa is that you're in America, you have some amazing business ass connections, right? And I'm not saying that it's impossible to have, but most Americans don't have these amazing business connections. Even so, right? This is a guy who probably does have amazing business connections, because he's connected with some church in the middle of America that has access to letters, like to mailing in well, not pre-colonial Africa, but 1900 Africa, right? They're mailing him letters and communique and so on and so forth, and they're giving him money. And what happens is this: you, as an individual, you connect yourself with the local, the European church, right? You have all of a sudden connections to Europe, and because we also don't recognize that a lot of these dudes are grifters and charlatans, right? And people, like generally speaking, people are very easily scammed, very easily deceived, very easily swayed by charlatans. Okay, people generally are like that, and Africa is not an exception. You have these charlatans coming over and connecting you with the world's largest economy, and connecting you with those sort of opportunities with the world's largest economy. Yeah, people are bending over backwards for that. Like he said, he arrives to this land, he sets up a church, he builds these schools, he's giving the people services, and on top of that, what people understand even at that point in time is that you get connected with the church, you get connected with the European, you learn the Europeans' language, you learn the Europeans' religion, you learn the Europeans' ways, you have an economic leg up in the economy that the Europeans going there to build. Because, the thing that we have to remember when we talk about South Africa, right? Although we were the manpower in South Africa, a lot of what the South Africans have was of a colonial origin. It was of a colonial origin, and if you were that colonized chosen, the chosen of the colonizer, right? You had a leg up in the colonial economy, and people see that. These Europeans communicate that. We don't know because we weren't there, but you could almost guess, hey, you know what? You will get riches in this life, or I will write you a referral to travel to America. I will write you a referral to get connected with my other brethren in South Africa. I will write you a referral for the city life, even though you're in the rural area. The white man knows what he's doing, and the black man could pick up on what the white man is doing. Now, we might not partake in that kind of world, but a lot of black people can, like, even like there's like the sister on Twitter who, well spoken, all that cool stuff, right? But she says, "Hey, look, my background was as a missionary in, like, her first time she went to Africa was as a missionary in in the Christian church. How did she get to Africa as a missionary in the Christian church? Because uh, 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 because that's the stuff that white people are giving you. They're giving you, even in America, opportunities to travel around the world, right? And that's kind of the thing that we are not doing. Of course, the Christian message has its little merits, peace on earth and blah blah blah. But there is that material component. They are giving you a free education. They are giving you an education. They are feeding you. They are clothing you. They are connecting you, so on and so forth. And of course, they're also answering these, these existential questions. But on top of everything, they are offering, and they're connecting you with one of the world's largest economies. Okay, and they're doing this deliberately, and they understand this, and they're giving you opportunities for referrals, in order to go to a better university or get a better job in the city or what have you. It's something that we can replicate, but we're not replicating, and it's plain as day.
Only we are the Christian family, the Christian family of my child, and the Christian part of the family of my child. Their main pastor is in Nigeria. So the church that they follow is led by a Nigerian. So Senegalese Christians are following this denomination. Um uh, with let me put it this way: their pope is in Nigeria. the Pope of the Church of my people in Senegal is in Nigeria. So it's actually happening. And what I take from your words is like we need a economical base, right? So do we really have to get rid of these religions, because we will work our people against us. So what if we make Africa the base of those religions? I don't know about Islam, but what I see with my family, they don't look towards Europe, they don't look towards the United States, they look towards Nigeria, right? Okay, it's Christian, but they look towards Africa, right? So what if the economical factor, right? You described it as a connection to the economical power base called the United States. So key is an economical power base, right? What religion is practiced apparently doesn't make a difference. If I look to the Marabout in Senegal, Christian Marabouts and Muslim Marabouts, they practice African spirituality, but they ask you to pray. And when it's a Muslim, of course, he asks you to pray to Allah, and when it's a Christian, he asks you to pray to the other guy, which is the same, of course. But it doesn't take away from the African practice, right? So I guess again, key is economy. What do y'all think? What does the panel think about that? The key is economy.
People, I want to answer that. I want to answer that one. Give me a second. Give me one brief second, bro, and I'll let you rock. People will support who's feeding them. Jose, you are a man who has access to European markets, and unlike many other people who on the ground, probably on the ground in Senegal right now, use that to their advantage and leverage it. People will support. Unfortunately, this is the reality, because you talk about economy. People will support who is feeding them. Yeah, if your God, which is the access to money, is feeding them, they were gonna say, well, maybe your God working more than these gods over here, because this God is sending me to school, is providing me with health care, and putting bread on my table. So I think that you should leverage that and replace that European God with, I'm going to say yourself, but leverage it. I would say that. Leverage the opportunity that you have in using access to European markets to your advantage. Because unfortunately, and at this time in our history, people will support who is feeding them the most. But I'll leave it. Only go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I was going to say this. I might have the least experience with the Christian church, but on the panel, right? Or even like one of the least in when I used to live in America, right? But what I would say is this: the little experience I did have, right? Uh, I went to a black church, Jamaican church. The pastor was Jamaican. The whole audience was Pan African, if you will. Not Pan African like Pan Africanists, but like they were mostly Caribbean, African Americans, that kind of stuff, right? So it was mostly just black people, right? And the Jamaican pastor, the guy was from Jamaica, and he would tell us stories about Jamaica and related to the Bible and all that kind of stuff. I think it was like a Baptist church or something like that. But here's the thing: sometimes they would have a Baptist conference, and then you would see the white folk, right? Because we'd all meet up, and we would realize this pastor, who seems to have a congregation on the lock, is underneath the wider General Baptist Conference, and that's one. And realistically speaking, if you want to become a pastor in America, I'm not saying it's universal. I don't know, but I think you have to go to a Bible college and listen to whatever message the white man wants you to share with the black man. And I mean, it might not be explicitly white man, black man, but you're learning the Bible from this. It's like a teacher college, where you learn to teach from what white people tell you. Oh, this is the way to teach. Now, I'm not saying you can't go against it, but at the end of the day, even if you're a radical teacher, like we got on the panel, even if you're a radical teacher, you still got to go to the teachers conference or the principals conference and the superintendent's conference, and you got to bow to the, you're not bow, but you got to kowtow to the superintendent and all that kind of stuff. And the church has that same sort of thing. Now, the thing about, and I agree that it's definitely economics. The thing is that when I hear the word Nigeria, I think to myself, oh, damn. You know what I mean? like when it comes to Nigeria, like they are, unfortunately, because America has a plan for Africa. Like America's State Department has a plan for Africa, and it involves the four largest African countries of their different, separate regions, and Nigeria is one of them. So America has it out for keeping Nigeria, because it's the biggest African country, right? It has it out for keeping Nigeria under tow. So even if you were like Nigeria, I would, it's like I would stay away from Nigeria. In my point, but as far as economics is concerned, absolutely. It's like for me, I look at it from I say materialist now, right? I look at it from a materialist perspective in the sense of yes, fundamentally, our human relationships are economics based, but I would also add what the church does for you is it gives you that economics and it gives you that entertainment on a weekly basis or on a regular basis. And it gives you this impression that you're informed and intelligent. It's really I remember back when I used to write articles. I looked at they said there's 5 rites of passages in African tradition, and if you look at those 5 rites of passages, the Christian church has all 5. Okay, so you have the rite of what they call it, the right of youth to when the youth turn to adult. Um, but they also have the right of marriage. The Christian church marries people. You have the right of I should say the Abrahamic religions in general, because I know the Jews have that bar mitzvah thing. I'm not sure what the Christians have, but you have the right of marriage. You get married in the church. The right of elderhood, right? You get you become a deacon in the church, and they have the right of death or something like that, right? Where you have the funerals, like because even you say what you will when I die, and I'm not a Christian, but say what you will when I die, somebody has to go beg either the Christians or the Muslims to put me in the gravesite next to them. You know what I mean? Somebody has to go and somebody has to go ask a pastor or a imam or something to preach over my dead body, even though I never even followed their religions. Why? Because I'll say because I'm more like an atheist, but the atheists don't got shit in regard to the right of death. And then generally speaking, the pre-colonial Africans did have something, but as Coco pointed out, they're gone. So what do you do with a dead body? What do you do with a dead body? What do you do if you want to get married? You go to the country and you go to the state, the state, that's it. There's a lot that these people are offering in terms of services. And I'm not saying that the services didn't exist before they went there, but there's a lot that they're offering. And again, the most important thing is that these people are connected to the larger economy. If I was going to that church and I started talking, that good stuff, right? That good stuff. My pastor could have put in a good word with me to the Christian board, and then I would have gotten a seat at a Christian, college, and then I would have been able to become a pastor myself. Right? They say, "Oh, you got that. You got what's good for being a charlatan, so on and so forth," and that's a great economic opportunity for me. Okay, so to the point where if I were a Christian mother, because remember, a lot of the people in church are women, and a lot of the reason why they're women is because they're looking at a black man with a job. So if I was a mother, a single mother with a child, or even like a not single mother with a husband that ain't really providing much, whatever, I'm looking at this pastor like, yeah, I want my son to have his position. I want my son to be like that man, because that man is providing for his family. That man is even swinging dick. You know what I mean? So he's smart in terms of whatever. Like there's a lot going on, but yeah, I think as far as I'm concerned, with regards to Nigeria, I'm like, yeah, well, Nigeria, you basically just like that's already subordinate to America for the most part. But besides from that, it's like, yeah, there is an economic factor, and a lot of these pastors, like there was this mega pastor here in I think he traveled from the Congo in Tanzania. Dude's robbing people left and right, but people are giving him money because they believe he can, give them a better life, and he can cure illnesses and diseases. Something like save them money on doctor costs. Of course, he can't do that shit, but he's a good charlatan. So it is what it is.
Let's do a palate cleanser one. This will be the last post for tonight. Let's just do one that kind of changes how we. Cause I really don't want to leave on a Jesus note, personally. Should read topic number 5. Says, true or false? Many of America's problems are self-inflicted. This came with a link that takes us to X. Hopefully it works. Nope, it didn't work here again. This is kind of problematic. So this takes us to X. Just give me a second. I gotta add it to the scene and all this shit. Add the scene. Okay, there we go. This takes us to X. Takes us to a tweet from Eric Young. It says, this guy got a good point. So it's a little over 2-minute video. We'll watch it and then we'll discuss it.
Post-World War II, U.S. leadership traded the domestic manufacturing industry for national security by making the U.S. dollar the default international trade currency, which gave America the ability to impose economic sanctions on foreign countries through a U.S. financial banking system, but consequently increased the value of the U.S. dollar astronomically, which made it impossible for anyone to manufacture anything in America. Although the logic at the time was that Americans were supposed to upskill en masse away from the menial manufacturing jobs. But everyone here's too much of a dumbass to stay in school, so we just traded domestic manufacturing to Asia and the rest of the world at the expense of working class families. But if you don't read enough, it comes out as, let's go, Brandon! And it's like you have a point, but you don't have the vocabulary to describe your reality because you didn't read enough. You gotta keep reading. Very, very passionate people, my MAGA friends. And I respect their passion to some extent. I do. They're like, man, Ronnie, I love America. I would die for this country. And I believe them. I believe they love America. And I believe they would die for this country, which is very admirable. But it's like, man, you're willing to die for your country. Why aren't you willing to learn math? Also for your country. Like do both for your country. Because I know you want to die for your country, but we're losing the engineering jobs to Asia right now. So we need less people to die for the country. You want people to do their homework for the country. Like do your homework for your country. Like actually sit down and show the working and like do that's a more efficient way to show your patriotism. Like I know if you take that I want to die energy and you put it into homework, you will fucking top the school. I'm telling you, it's sky's the limit. You'll solve a lot of problems, you'll create a lot of jobs, you'll increase the GDP, okay? Just like, do your homework for your country. I'd rather die. I thought so. I thought that might be the case. Dying's easy, math is hard. These quadratic equations make me suicidal.
Good stuff. True or false, many of America's problems are self-inflicted. I'm going to speak to the folks who aren't American per se, but who observe. So I'm going to start with Jose first. Jose, what say you?
Very dope approach, and this maybe this is what we should be telling our Christian and Muslim brethren. This was dope and very refreshing, and it's the talk of the moment with Musk. Musk put the MAGA people against him. For this exact reason, MAGA people want to die for the United States. Don't you want to fight for your country? Yeah.
Post-World War II, U.S. leadership.
Dope. I mean, I'm speechless. This is so to the point. This is bullseye. That's all I have to say. Bullseye.
Appreciate that, Joe said. Let me hear from Oni next on this one.
Yeah, many Africans are self-inflicted. I mean, yeah, I mean that's that for me. Yeah, America, sure, uh, but for us as a people generally, this is the case. You know, you really won't advance without engineering and science. You know, I think the human species, on a fundamental level, advances by engineering and science. You know, if you know, think about it. You know, people don't agree with evolution, and let me not summon that guy because before we talk about it 3 times, but you know, some people don't believe in evolution. But the reality is this: you know, if humans never came up with the bow and arrow, or even the stick with a rock on it, or even just throwing rocks, you know, if humans never came up with that, the reality is they could have went extinct long ago. Okay, um, the human develops technology and continues to develop technology better and better and better and better. And not to say that there aren't other animals that you know use sticks and rocks to you know advance their agenda. But I you know I wrote a book or whatever. But in the book I even talk about how one of the unique things we do is also we conquer fire. You know, but regardless, what I'm saying is that you know that's you know if you will, you could even look at it as matter and energy, right? And that's I would look at the components of the universe, right? But the point being that if you're not participating in that field, you're going to be behind those who do. Just like you know the animals, you know the tiger is much stronger than you. You know there are some animals that are probably more intelligent than you. Well, not you guys, but you know like generally some human beings are probably not as smart as some dolphins or some chimpanzees or some whatever. But regardless, you know it doesn't matter how great you are inherently if you're not leveraging technology to your advantage, right? And the thing is that with the Americans, they really slowed down. Like their infrastructure, if you compare it against China, is crap. But you know, on the same in the same capacity, a lot of us in Africa, we're not leveraging the technology as good as we should be either. So there's you know a lesson there for the Americans as well as the you know the people in Africa. Uh, the yeah, so I mean, yeah, I think we do. I mean, Americans do have their problem of you know not you know doing math, not doing so on and so forth. But you know, we shouldn't overlook the fact that the Americans are still the leading, well, one of the leading forces in warfare. And I've written in the chat, but you know, it's something that we have to understand that the world is run on warfare, okay, or the supremacy of the earth depends on how 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 wars are waged, and so America takes warfare very, very, very seriously. Okay, some people estimate 2,000 military bases around the world, and not just that. Right now, they're in I want to say 90% of the large conflicts on the planet right now. Like they have a hand, and sometimes they have a hand on both sides. You know what I mean? Like they are very, very serious about war, and we as a species, you know, because I look at us from a species point, right? We as a species are dominated by war. I mean, if you're better at war, you know you're gonna dominate. You know, you look at the Shaka Zulu documentary. That's what you come away with. Shaka Zulu wasn't necessarily the best at you know math. Wasn't necessarily the best at reading. Wasn't necessarily the best at whatever. He was the best at war, though. You get what I'm saying? Right? And so, you know, to this day, a good number of South Africans claim to be Zulu. You know, that's it. Like sometimes you have to be like as a species, the best thing you can be good at is war. And what stop? Yeah, and we kind of say no, you know. But you know, as I said, there's white people who say might is right, might makes right, and it's really a general principle that's overlooked. So America does have the problem of not being that engineering so on and so forth. But let's not ignore the fact that America can at least defend itself. when it comes to us as African people, we're not doing the engineering, and we're not doing the military engineering, and we're not doing the warfare, and we're suffering for it. You know, so even though the Americans have they're taking L's, you know, we as African people are taking worse L's. You know, this Chinese man, I don't know if he's Chinese or not, or this Chinese American man, he will not even tell this joke for African people because he's like, well, you know, he just has to say Africa. Now, of course, I'm not saying that as a, you know, I'm in Africa and I like it, but what I'm saying is that, you know, we have to do much better. You know, that's it.
Appreciate that. Oni, make sure you guys check out Oni's channel. He posts a lot of shorts these days, but check him out. Check him out, showcasing his thoughts while in Africa. So it's good stuff. Cheryl in the chat says the reason we can't do those things is Christianity. That's her response to Oni, I do believe. With that said, let's hear from Buana. Buana, should read topic number 5, says, true or false, many of America's problems are self-inflicted. What say you?
Okay, so remember now, guys, this question is specifically for the problems that exist within America. If it was another country, I would comment on that too, to all my nationalists in the room. I don't want y'all to get upset at me, you know. But I would say that many things that America does is self-inflicted, as it pertains to various issues. When it comes to guns, America permits and allows, which I love personally, but they permit everybody on the streets of America to have guns. You know, it's like a free flowing of guns in America. And I think that every person shouldn't possess and own a personal gun. That is extremely dangerous. And that's why you see in the school shootings, that's why you see in the proliferation of just murder, you know, in itself. It's like it's open murder, it's open season on everyone because every Tom, Dick, and Harry can have a gun. I think that is problematic, but it's built into the Constitution. So this is a self-inflicted issue that's created because everyone has a right, because of the Second Amendment, to own and possess a firearm. That's a problem, especially the crazies. And then you have the issue of racism. Racism is ridiculous because now you have intelligent people who are left out of the workforce or left out of certain positions solely based on the color of their skin, which they had no charge over. They had no responsibility for which you was born, and you had no choice in the matter. So you're gonna leave me out a specific industry or skill set based on my color, and I could be the most intelligent person for the job or for whatever position. So you're gonna just judge me entirely on my skin. That is problematic. That's one of the issues that is a self-inflicted kind of issue that America chooses to create. Now it's isolationism. Isolationism is a big thing now because the next president wants to build a wall around America and only invite in European citizens. Now it's coming. That's falling on his head now because the Elon Musk and Vivek, they didn't understand what it takes in terms of the next level of the next age we about to go to, which is the technological age. We going out of the information age into the technological age, and unfortunately, the people who possessing a lot of the technological information or power is the Indians, and now they want H-1 visa these people into the country, but xenophobia doesn't permit that. So how can America be great again without these people, especially when your own people don't want to go back and train themselves or spend the time that it takes in training themselves in the technological industry? So if you don't allow these people in, then you're gonna fall behind. You're gonna fall behind the rest of the world because I'm gonna tell you something. Japan is technologically advanced with their citizens. They have their people. So do the Chinese and the Indians as well. So if your competitors are eating your lunch technologically, right? And Silicon Valley only produce a certain amount of people, and many of people in Silicon Valley are Indians, whether people know it or not. Elon Musk them to understand that Indian labor is basically running the technological industry. So xenophobia doesn't work, especially when you are trying to come in first place. That doesn't work in reality. I understand you want to say America or Americans, especially European Americans. That doesn't work in this environment. So you have to allow H-1 visa for immigrants to come into the country, especially if you want to make America great again. These are kind of difficult questions people don't want to answer, especially when you're talking about skilled labor. Or we could have Americans do it. Americans don't want to go and pick fruit, nor do they have the numbers in the technological industry as well. So I think that a lot of things are self-inflicted. Yes. And Oni said something important. He mentioned warfare. He said that America have the big stick. So America will always come first because they have the big stick. I would only tell Oni to read a book by this lady called Anna Jacobson. She wrote a book called Nuclear War. Anna Jacobson. A very good book to read. And she tells a story about the many different countries that has the same nuclear capacity as America, like China, North Korea, India, Iran, Russia, France, and the UK. Let me tell you something. If one person possesses the same gun that you do, then you all are on equal footing. You're all on equal footing with one another because I possess the same power to destroy your economy as you do mine. As you do mine. So when you send nuclear weapons at me, I could send nuclear weapons at you. So that's no longer even though you have more than I do, even though you have more than I do, I will still change your economy for ages if me and you used to get to war with each other because you don't possess the power to stop my nuclear missiles, nor do I with yours. So you may wipe me off for the face of the planet, but I will ultimately put your economy back into a backwater country, third world country, and it really will change your society for forever. So that's no longer on the table. So now we have to use other kinds of skills and resources to compete in the world. This is the real kinds of conversations we should have. So when we talk about being self-inflicted, I think that America is a great country for what it is. They came from very far. I think they do a lot of horrible things in the world. But I think that if they want to maintain first place, they have to do a series of different things, which is not closing the door to the rest of the world. It's problems for them. It's very problematic. But it's really on them to do. If they choose to do it, or if they choose not to do it. But I'll end there, Coco, and let the other brothers rock.
So let me see if our brother Kofi can hear us. Kofi, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So in the chat, Kofi said, American arrogance is the we are number one at everything while pretending it's white progress while it's actually Asian and African brain power. Kofi, you want to respond to the prompt and then respond to that statement you made?
Well, the reason why I said that, not to take away credit from any, ingenuity is ingenuity, no matter where it comes from. But when America says we're number one, let's be honest, we're not thinking of a brown face or a black person, but it's basically an amalgamation of all these people, since they're American, and they'll take their patent or whatever, take it to market and make money off of it. Now, that's what I meant by that prompt, by that statement that I made. Now, to what you just said over here with the comedian, this is a comedian. He comes on Comedy Central with Jon Stewart. So, if anyone that knows Comedy Central and Jon Stewart, they do, they report like news, but in a comedic fashion. So he's on there on Comedy Central doing that. So he's famous for that. Plus, he does voiceovers and things of that nature. So I'm very familiar with his work. And the thing that he's talking about right now, if you guys, the reason why I'm saying what I'm saying is that you have Vivek Ramaswamy and you have Elon Musk now going against the MAGA base saying, well, work visas are now good. Why? Look at me. I'm a Elon Musk saying I'm an African American, and I was able to develop SpaceX and do all these wonderful things by getting people from India and other countries and things of that nature to develop technology and engineering here. Then you got Vivek Ramaswamy saying the same thing. He saying like, hey, look, pretty much piggybacking on what Elon Musk is saying, which is the unofficial president right now, right? Because and then what does Trump do? Trump says, okay, Elon, whatever you say, and that's what's been happening now. So now you have the whole MAGA base that are upset. Like the Chinese I forgot his name, basically saying right there, you saying, hey, do you love America? You love America. So they're taking that fight, that zeal, that love of America, which is obviously he's saying, which is misplaced. Learn math, learn to make your country better. Just dying for your country for no for blind reasons is not good enough. But they're into the reality. Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, they are into the reality that yes, to make America better, which is what America does, is take the best from other countries, from other nations to make it great. From a Pan African standpoint, we need to do that when it comes to Africa. I always hear like, okay, you have someone from West Africa, from Senegal and Ghana, whatever, they go to school there, and if they want to be an engineer, they don't. They go to the best. They go to schools overseas, and when they go to schools overseas, then they stay there and they just build what America. They don't come back and build their homeland. So that's problematic. But towards this prompt here right now, the man is pretty much telling this is pretty much telling the truth. We don't invest in, and especially this political campaign shows that we don't invest in technology. We don't invest in science. It's just blind patriotism, yada 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 yada. Right, and where we are right now, you got Robert F.K. Jr. That is an anti-vaxxer. That's anti anything science. Well, we have to research that. These things have already been researched, sir, right? Then you have Donald Trump saying, "Well, climate change isn't real," and like the intel. So like Vivek Ramaswamy said, okay, it's cool when you're in high school for everybody to elect. He said something today to elect the captain of the football team, and you're shitting on the nerd. But guess what? The captain of the football team in the real world, he's not doing nothing. It's the nerd and the geeks that pave new innovation, new ways of improving people's lives. And the MAGA cult are those jocks that are going around saying we're the best, strong arming people, shaming people. Oh, you think, oh, you're smart. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Oh, you're a nerd. Oh, you for equality. Oh, this, you're woke, and you all this, like this bullying tactics. They're not using their mind, they're not using their intellect to make America great again. So yes, America, there's a segment of America that is its own worst enemy. And this is, I mean, we're in the age of we're gonna fuck around and find out. Let the jocks take control of the government, right? Because they're macho and they say all the good shit. No one cares about their qualifications. They're pussy grabbers and sexual assaulters and pedophiles. Yeah, to them that's strong. So let them take care of it, and we'll see. And I'm pretty much end it right there.
I appreciate that, Kofi. I hope the sound came through well because my mic was open, so I hope it didn't cause too much problems. But I appreciate that, Kofi. So make sure you guys are tuned in to Kofi. He had a good live. That was yesterday afternoon, I believe. He had a good live yesterday with forecasts and stuff as well. So you guys should check that out. And check out his channel, subscribe, and everything. With all that said, Buana should read topic number 5. True or false? Oh, sorry, not Buana. Black Steel should read topic number 5. True or false? Many of America's problems are self-inflicted. You heard everything everyone else had to say and type in the chat. What say you to all of it?
Well, I appreciate everyone's contribution to this discussion, especially Kofi, because he really hit on what is kind of the big deal right now with the Magaloids upset because they are against immigration, but then you have both Elon Musk and Donald Trump who are championing that. I think it's the H-1B1 immigration, so that way America can get the best and brightest people from India who work for less who work on holidays is really upsetting because what Ronnie Chang is saying in his comedy skit is that you guys are willing to do everything for your country, but study and learn. You just want to overpower and attack and kill everybody. I only said something to the effect of, war is important. You got to be good at war. America hasn't really won a war since World War II, right? We lost in Afghanistan. We lost in Iraq. I mean, we won against Grenada if you really want to count. I should say we, because I'm not a part of that. America won against Grenada if you really want to count that. You know, they won against. They didn't win in Korea. So America hasn't really won a war since the Second World War. We're just good at bombing countries. But when it comes to actually winning a war, achieving objectives and aims, America's not good at that. They haven't been good at it for a long time. But his overall point is that, and this is kind of what people are saying, is that these white people they want diversity, equity, and inclusion. They want DEI for white people now because both Musk and Ramaswamy are saying that, hey, you Americans aren't smart enough to do these jobs that we need you to do. And that's kind of what Ryan Chang is saying here. You could have that education, but because you invest your time and your energy on things that aren't really necessary, your education system is poor, and you don't invest in your people. And that's really what I want to say. The main point is that the United States doesn't invest in his doesn't invest it's in its citizens, right? And this is because they don't invest in their citizens. They want to steal the best and the brightest from other countries and have them come here and do the work that instead of training Americans to do, they rather pay them cheaper and work them harder. And these people can't afford to quit or go find another job. They gotta pretty much stay where they are. So you're using and taking advantage of these immigrant populations. But the MAGAs are basically having a mental breakdown because they thought that Trump was talking about deporting mass deportation of immigrants. They thought he meant all immigrants, legal or otherwise. And now they can't believe that he's endorsing immigrants to come to the United States and um, take jobs from Americans, quote unquote, take jobs or whatever. It's quite funny to see the breakdown of it. So it's just it's quite funny to see the mental gymnastics that they're undergoing right now. But yeah, I thought his joke was funny because it just kind of shows that the issues that we face, that America faces as a country, is that we're struggling to keep up with the rest of the world because we've de-invested from our society. So I'll leave it there. Thanks.
So I saw a post from American Soul. I feel like American Soul has actually been on the panel here before. I don't know if that was someone Buana had invited.
Not me, not me. No, 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 no. He was here. He was here last week, but he never. He was making comments, but I would only say, Koku, to the brothers who call us clowns and all the these kinds of things. Have the courage of your convictions. Have the courage of your position, and click the link. And why don't you just have a dialogue with the brothers on the panel rather than calling us names?
Yeah, that's what I was getting to. I typed in the chat, hey, why don't you come up and say it boldly, man? Come and have that discussion. Look at this other person here. I guess I didn't do my job this week in making sure that only subs can comment. But look at this guy, that guy Merck talking about low IQ. Like, what do you mean by that? Come up and defend what you're talking about. You and American Soul, but I doubt you guys will, and that's fine. But in the next time when you guys, and by the way, let me say, American Soul sounds like he might be FBA, but
Yeah, I was just about to say that because yeah.
yeah, he sounds like he might be FBA. But the thing about that I actually can appreciate is at least an FBA is listening, and hopefully something will get through eventually. But he says here, so I can smoke you. Well, come on up and let's see if you, because it's not just me up here, it's a bunch of us here. So let's see if you could come and smoke us if that's the case. Click the link. In the chat, Afro Native World says indigenous African cultures believe in a creator. Okay, so he's responding to only them are having a side conversation in the chat. So if you guys listen to the playback, check out the chat. The chat is usually full of gems. I just can't get to all of the comments all the time. Cheryl says, white America. Hold on a second. Cheryl says, white America invests less in itself because it's not as white as it was in the good old days. Why invest when more than a third of the population is non-white? That's an interesting thought there. I'll throw it to the panel in a
She hit the
second.
nail on the head right there. She hit the nail on the motherfucking head.
American Soul says he's American first. Okay. Well,
It's a white
again,
man, man.
that
Block him.
doesn't.
It's a white dude. Block him.
Yeah,
It
what
sounds.
does that mean? America is a compilation of different people. It's not a so-called race. It's a nationality.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which is why I asked him to come up, because it's now sounding a little bit kind of white boy type talk. So come up if you have the courage. If not, next time I see you, I'll have you banned from the channel. All right. So
Yeah, it
anyway,
sounds like a white supremacist, honestly. But
yeah.
I guess that could still be FBA, right?
Same thing. Same thing. I mean,
Same damn.
personally, I kind of like these trolls because it shows how ignorant they are. Like, I mean, Coco's your channel. Do what I'm good with whatever you do, but like, I like the challenge you're putting out there. But come on, if you know better than us, just let us know. Teach us. Maybe you know something that we don't. But just what you're doing right now is just trolling. You just being emotionally upset and can't back up what you're saying scholastically, which shows how that you're just a troll and an idiot. So come up here.
Well said. Well said. Earlier, Afro Native World mentioned the University of Kemet Press. A few years ago, I tried to order a book from there. I never got it, but if I remember correctly, they didn't charge me either. But are they back in? Are they actually putting out materials? I guess I could look at their website and figure it out. Have any of you in the panel ordered a book from the University of Kemet Press before?
Yeah, I have 3. It comes through. I don't know if I got it. Yeah, I think I got it from the website, or maybe probably on Amazon. I don't know, but I think I got it through the website. Yeah, it's just a straight. Yeah, it's just straightforward. You get it, and thing. They have the 3 books I have. I believe it's one of them's like African curriculum. One of them's about Ma'at. I don't remember the third one. I didn't get a chance to read through them though. So I was reading the Ma'at one. It's different tone, from what I like. But I know they also have this big African history book, so they're definitely still writing. They're definitely still. It seems like they're active. I mean, as far as I know from whatever, but yeah, like I think you can, if you order it offline, I think you can get it. But like you said, if they didn't charge you, I would just try again, honestly. Uh, I mean, if you want any of the titles they have, yeah.
All right, that's good to know. I appreciate that. Uh Let me just get if I could find him, let me get African Soul up out of here. Because when you start talking that foreigner and all that shit, we could just about get I guess Trigger timed them out. Okay. If I could remember later on, let me see if I could do it now. If I can remember though, I will definitely ban him or remove him. Right? Because if you're just gonna be talking troll shit and ain't coming up, well then, you can be gone, right? Anyone want to add any last thoughts to this prompt? Well, that's the
Basically,
show for tonight then. I appreciate. Yeah, yeah, Kofi, go ahead.
oh no, well, no. Basically, I just want to just pretty piggyback on what Black Steel was basically saying about the whole thing about America's finding out, because there was
Oh,
a
go
story I know you guys heard about the farmer that voted for Trump. It was like a dairy farm, and he voted for Trump, and it was an Asian reporter, and she was like, "How much of your workforce is immigrants?" He said 40%. So he's saying, well, what happens if Trump does it? It was, well, I voted for him hoping that he wouldn't do it to workers, that he's only going to do it to the other people that are undocumented. So he said, what happens if Trump comes in here to your facility right now and get rid of everybody? Say, oh, there won't be any food for like 2 days. This is a 24 operation. So, so things like that is going to get very interesting. But good show, Coco. Good show.
Before you go, Kofi, what would you like to shout out this week?
I would like to shout out my with my family. Finally got some time. Um, just my great, wonderful family. My wife. My kids are home from college and stuff like that, and just in enjoying them and enjoying life and just enjoying creating memories. For them to have. So that's pretty much it. Keeping it simple.
Appreciate that, Kofi. Joseph, what would you like to shout out this week?
Yeah. The AES. It's a shout out, and actually, let's all send some power that's in that direction. The guys in Niger, they caught Nigerian military officers red-handed, and let's hope Nigeria. I don't know. Let's hope Nigeria takes a vacation concerning French military in Nigeria. Whatever, yeah, we know what they're doing there, but yo, Nigeria, what's up? So let's send some spiritual power to Nigeria, to Niger, and the rest of the coalition of the free, so they can deter these confused other African nations. That's it.
Yeah, that's a good note too. Nigerians, y'all gotta do better, man. As a country, come on, man. You see what's going on with the AES and getting the French up out of there, French military and whatnot up out of there, and you guys went and invited them to come in. Come on, dog. But anyway, Black Steel, what would you like to shout out this week?
This is our last show for 2024. So I just want to shout out everyone who comes on here every week to make this show special. All the hard work everybody puts in, taking their time on a Saturday night to come here and chop it up. Greatly appreciate it. Love y'all. Y'all the work y'all do. Everybody on the panel in the chat. Much respect.
Much respect to you too. I notice the likes tend to go up later in the show too. I noticed that's something I've been noticing. Make sure you guys hit the like button, share the show wherever you can by email to your friends, family, because that's a part of it too. We have to have that. We have to do our jobs too. We can't just look at certain people and say, well, they must do the job. We all must do our part. So share these conversations if you can. With that said, only would you like to shout this week?
I want to shout out you guys, man. This was another year. I'm not, like you said, I'm mostly doing shorts now. But it's hard being a consistent content creators and joining in the content creation, and we don't like. I think we overlook that content creation is very, very important, very, very critical. Um, a lot of our people need entertainment. Okay, just like when it comes to music, a lot of people need music, and it's the people who are making positive content and positive music and positive propaganda, if you will, that are really also making a difference for our people. But of course, beyond that, of course, AES, you got to shout out. Wait, is it AES? I think it's AES. But you got to shout out the coalition in West Africa that's doing big things. Okay, they have been consistently uh, doing the work that a lot of people only dream of. So yeah, shout out to us, and like I said, everybody on the panel, really excellent insight, really great content when they're making content. It's really like I'm looking forward to another year, or I'm looking forward to next year, and hopefully, whatever it is we wish to accomplish is going to get accomplished. But yeah, shout out to people here, and of course, shout out to the people in the West African Coalition. I think it's ADS, but yeah.
Yes, AES. Shout out to Joe in the chat. She's with us. She said, "Yeah, let's get the likes up." So make sure you hit the like button. I put a poll up as well. I closed it just now. I guess the two dissenters. It was about. Did you like the prompts tonight? I guess the two negative votes was from the two assholes, American Soul and whatever the other fucker was named who was here earlier. Um, Real quick before I go to Buana, Trigger Happy 262 Plus says, I need to know if this is confirmed, but Ghana has made it visa-free access for all African countries, but I need to look into it. I put up a post. I put up several posts I haven't brought. I forgot I was supposed to do it tonight. I put up several posts I was supposed to bring out before the year ended about, and one of them was about Ghana actually making it easy for people from the Bahamas to go to Ghana too. I don't know if Buana had heard that. But that's good stuff. I really do appreciate that a bunch. Someone said the negative votes come from Azuli. But yeah, with that said, let me get to Buana. Buana, what would you like to shout out this week?
Yes, sir. So first of all, let me shout out to all our brothers and sisters who have listened to us out through the year, and just listen to us quietly or loudly in trying to make the contributions, and all for all the brothers who've been trying to get on, and the sisters who've been trying to get on as well. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for trying to let some of the things that we would have said resonate with you all into your daily lives, and maybe you all could apply it. I don't know how you all have decided to apply it or not, but I would say thank you all for listening to us throughout this whole entire year. That's the first thing I would say to the brothers and sisters on the panel. Shout out to Anthony for trying to get on. Shout out to my brother Bakari, even though he vexes me right now. And shout out to all the rest of the brothers and sisters who've been listening to us. For the panelists as well, let me do this individually. Shout out to Oni. Oni is solving African problems. He is taking his message to the continent, and he's actually trying to apply a lot of the things that he would have learned, in the Western Hemisphere. Oni has a unique experience. Oni has learned from Dr. Amos Wilson personally, I think, and the other brother, I forget his name now, Alton Maddox. These people who are pivotal in black struggle in New York City. So, he is trying to apply the things that he would have learned in New York City and Africa. So I think that that's a big deal, and I think that he will be successful at it. So shout out to him for actually even, trying to make that effort. And that's a big deal. Shout out to my brother Jose, in Senegal. He's living a dream right now, doing his thing, also solving African problems on the continent. So shout out to those brothers for actually trying to apply the things that they would have learned in this side of the world over there. Big deal. That's a big deal. Shout out to my teacher, my teacher, Black Steel. Black Steel is doing his thing always, and he is making his valuable contributions as he usually does. That's my brother in South Florida. I hope he stays safe through the holidays and makes it into the new year healthy, wealthy, and wiser. Here I go. But shout out to you, Koku, as well. Koku has been the founder. He's the quarterback of all this shit. and he's been consistent. And in being consistent in what he does, I hope this channel grows and sees more and more success into 2025. So I don't know who else I miss. Who else I miss, Koku? I miss somebody? Who I miss?
You got everyone up here.
Okay.
Because
So that's really it. Shout out to all the brothers who for 2024 who have been holding it down through the year and showing consistency. In 2025, let's try to add on. Let's try to improve what we did in 2024 and do something more of what we did in 2024 and become, bigger. Become bigger. Let's do it bigger in 2025. But shout out to everybody and respect to everyone. I'll leave it there.
yeah, I just want to add before we go, being that Oni is becoming more and more integrated in Tanzania, sometimes post some stuff from there so we could understand a little bit, if you can, if it's possible, so we could understand a little bit what are the issues or what are the thoughts going on in that part of Africa, and if anyone else is in an African state, put up some prompts that educate us a little bit more on what's going on currently and in the past if necessary. All right, that's the last show for the year. We'll be back next week for the first show of the year. Yeah, bring some Tanzanian Pan Africans. So we'll be back next year, same time, same place, 8 to 11. We might go over a little bit, but I think you guys appreciate that as well. Until then, you guys be good, man. Enjoy your families, enjoy life, and let's see each other again next year, all right? Until then, peace.
Peace.